Hey everyone, this is the Kubeflow Notebooks meeting for the 12th of June, 2025. As always, we are focused on Notebooks 2.0. We do maintain other things as well, but like the dashboard and profile controllers and Notebooks 1.0, obviously, but 2.0 is obviously the focus. So if you don't know what that is, I don't know how you found the meeting, but that's exciting. And then so there is a Kubeflow Notebooks repo, and issue number 85 tries to give a very basic overview. It does assume that you know what Kubeflow Notebooks is, but if you don't know what that is, then I guess you can read online. It's just a motivation. It's got a link to design docs. It doesn't have the roadmap, which maybe we should link there. And we've got this kind of roadmap thing, which is high level discussions of kind of from the perspective of users, what they should be able to do on the early versions of the tool. Yeah, so there's like obviously personas that are for cluster admins, which are kind of the people managing the Kubernetes deployments, and then there's the actual users for the AI people or data people. Yeah, so these are, and then from here we kind of built epics, and we'll be going through those later. Just highlighting that for people. If you are a user of Kubeflow Notebooks or Kubeflow overall, this is something that we're asking people to do at the moment. Add your name to the Kubeflow Notebooks adopters if you're an adopter of Notebooks, or if you're not adopter of other pieces of Kubeflow, feel free to add your name in one of those ones, which is linked in the Kubeflow community repo. There's also overall ones if you use the overall platform. Oh, this is a bit nebulous what this means, but these ones are the ones we really care about. If anyone's new and wants to say hi in this meeting, feel free. This is your chance to say hi. Hi, Kyle.
Hi, I was here last week and was not ready to introduce myself. Here I am today. I am a UX designer from Red Hat. In this case, I've been working with Andy and Charles. I think they're both on here. Anyway, to try and help out and make things usable for users.
Cool. Awesome. Anyone else want to say hi?
Yep. My name is Adrian. Sorry, I joined last week's meeting. I work at Red Hat, and I'm trying to start contributing on the upstream. I already submitted some local proposals for Kubeflow notebooks. Just wanted to say hi. I'm on the Spain time zone, so I will probably join some of the meetings, not all of them.
Cool. Have you got people at Red Hat who can connect you with the right things to do? And
We are just trying to figure out where to start, like a good first issue. So any guidance is welcome.
yeah,
Actually,
are you more of a front end or back end?
I'm actually a quality engineer,
You're a what?
but
Sorry.
quality engineer.
Oh, okay, cool.
Software
I'd recommend you
quality.
talking with your internal people and figuring out who's got stuff to do, I guess, like from maybe Andy and Eder and Hashad. I guess the leads of the epics are the good places to start there, I think. But yeah, you'll see those in a second. That's great. Nice to meet you. And Tal?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
hi everyone.
Oh, you're quite quiet.
Well,
Is that?
can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a bit better.
Okay, I'll try to speak louder. So hi everyone, Tal from the UX team here. I'm working with Kyle pretty closely, and this is my first meeting here. Yeah, just trying to help out with great usability.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds good. Anyone else want to say hi?
Hello everyone,
Hey.
Xavier from Amadeus joining.
Hello. Sorry. Did you say you from Red Hat or?
No, I'm from Amadeus. We are a big
Oh, okay.
user of Spark operator and Kubeflow.
Okay, cool. There is a Spark operator meeting, by the way. It's well, I don't know what they call themselves. They're meant to be a WG data, but I don't know what's going on with that. All I know is that there is meant to be a meeting. So for that, but if you're interested in notebooks too, that's great.
Yeah, I'm interested. But
Awesome. No, welcome to the meeting. Do you
yeah,
want to contribute or just
sorry to
use?
interrupt.
I'm assuming you're just interested in using at this point.
Yes, we deploy it on OpenShift Kubeflow.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's good to know. Okay, let's. Anyone else want to say hi? Okay, awesome. So, one thing I just still want to highlight about 1.0, and I don't know why it's under here, but the overall Kubeflow project is trying to achieve CNCF graduation. We're mostly not the blocker here. There is some things that maybe the dashboard piece might be blocking. This is the Kubeflow community meeting, which we kind of alternate between CNCF graduation and community calls each week. But it's mainly just that we don't want to block this as the dashboard and notebooks and other pieces. Obviously, we'll hopefully getting Notebooks 2.0 to be the thing we're graduating, but either way, Notebooks will be a part of it. I just wanted to highlight that this is something we're trying to do, obviously before November, but that means actually doing it before the end of really the middle of next month, finalizing the applications to the CNCF because they have to do reviews and audits and other things like that. And yeah, so we're working on that in the other meetings. I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to it. It's important because it means that we get, like keynote time every season at KubeCon. We get like more support. We get bigger booths at at KubeCon, better positioned things. We also get, we get to. It's more of an indication of what we are, which is a very industry standard project, and it makes more sense for us to be a graduated project. Okay. I don't think anyone's from AMD is here, are they? Anyone from AMD here? Want to give a quick update on what they sent me? I don't know if their time zones overlap that well with this. So anyway, what they sent me is that they did decide on a solution that will hopefully not affect just notebooks, but will affect everyone, which is allowing non-root container images to work. And obviously, once that's been rolled out to everyone, they will create an image for us that they can have a default AMD image, which would be nice. Awesome. We've migrated a lot of this code, but we haven't finished doing it. I mean, I don't want to go too much into this, but this is probably something that will block graduation a little bit, which is that we're moving a lot of our code from Kubeflow, the ones that we control, the notebooks group, into these other repos. But we've had a little bit of progress stalling there. I think there has been some PRs, but I'm not sure exactly where we are there. I think we still need to finish setting up the release process for the dashboard on the new repo. And then we can start thinking about how to migrate the notebooks. Although I do note that some people have been merging PRs on the old Kubeflow repo for dashboards, so maybe that shouldn't happen. Please don't do that, because it means that now it's for Kubeflow. So because we currently have 2 places where the code lives, which is problematic. But let's try and only do things on the new dashboard repo. Okay. Anyone want to say anything about dashboard migration? Andy, you want to say anything there or not really?
No, we still need to just kind of like figure out what we're doing around getting the release stuff done, but I haven't really been looking at the dashboard stuff, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think someone did raise a PR for that, but I'm not sure what's going on there. I need to follow up if why they did that or who's asking them to do that, because obviously people get a lot of messages from a lot of different people when it comes to that migration. Okay, okay. So, Notebooks 2.0. Okay, so I don't know if Ed is here, probably not. Let's kind of, so up the top here we have this kind of short-term goals and long-term goals. Our goal that we were working on the last month, sprint, whatever you want to call it, was to, well, it was this one, I think.
Yes.
And then there's some of this that's still a little bit blocked here, but it's not quite finished, but it's close. I think the main things we can go down the epics to figure out what's left, but yeah, the goal was to pretty much just get a very basic working thing. There's still going to be, it's not really working from a user perspective yet. It's just something minimal end to end, I think was the goal, that a user could click some buttons and actually start a notebook. But now the next month, I don't know if anyone's super across exactly the differences here, but I think it's more focused on the workspace kind page, I think. But yes, let's kind of go down to this epics thing. So the epics are these kind of overarching areas that we define that relate to each of the what are they called? Roadmap items. Which are owned by a specific person. That person is kind of responsible to do these things up here, wherever it lists it, which is kind of make sure that they know what's going on. That so epics have 3 layers. They have like epic, feature, and work items, which are, these are the ones which are what you'd expect, like pull requests and actual direct, sometimes issues. Features are, so epics are these like overall goals. Like we're gonna do like the ability to deploy Kubeflow notebooks, things like that. And then there is no specific implementation details. It's just the goal of what we're doing and why we're doing that. And features have implementation specifics. That's where we discuss ideas. And the whole goal here is that if you get assigned a work item, you should be able to look back up the stack and figure out what the heck why you did anything. Why is this important? What's it related to? And it helps us organize, making sure that we release something at the end of the day, because if we can keep developing, if once we can close out these epics, we know that there is at least a working product. That's kind of the idea. A minimum working product. Minimum valuable, I don't know. So I don't know. Let's I guess it's funny that we always start with you, Andy, because it's like deploying, and it seems kind of, it is not, I guess that's still the future kind of, but it's not strictly included in this one, but it's might as well just, what's the status of this epic?
Yeah, we're making really good progress on the deploy stuff. I know PR is open. Just one last bit of review feedback on it, on containerizing the back end. The front end PR is also open, went through a couple rounds of feedback. We're now using Nginx to do the serving on the front end. I need to just re-review that PR, so I'm hoping tomorrow to have some time to get those Docker files LGTM'd. And then we'll kind of change and pivot attention to the actual workload manifests next week. But good progress there in terms of getting those in. Like I said, I think the Docker files will have merged tomorrow or ready for merge tomorrow or Monday. They're very close.
Front end or?
For both back end and front end.
Does backend not have Docker files? I guess it doesn't.
It does, but it didn't work. And so that was like the Docker context. We needed to do some go mod replace kind of stuff. But it's,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so no, it's looking. But then because we now like passed the last thing we're waiting on that PR is we pass context of the parent directory, but then we lose the Docker ignore file. So I noticed we were passing like 1.4 gigabytes because I'd like built all the stuff locally. The Docker context was huge. So we're just waiting now to fix that issue, and the backend Docker file will be good to go. But it is like building, everything's working, but just the context is unreasonably large.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Anything that's kind of blocking that right now then?
No, that's moving along nicely.
Okay. Maybe I'll jump down a little. Oh, I guess we could talk about this. This is actually pretty important, yeah. So what's this one?
Yep. So like I said, the video that I'll share in the issues kind of talk about some of the, developer experience around creating issues and removing sub issues, which is a direction we eventually want to go. So that's kind of that first project issue, GitHub issue tracking stuff. So like I said, recorded the demo video I'll share on the respective issues today. That went very nicely. And that's all I have to say about the planning stuff. That'll kind of wrap up that aspect of the work or that feature. Efficient and effective testing infrastructure. A bunch of PRs have been open, just adding kind of basic test harnesses to a lot of the different files in the back end. I have like 5 or 6 different PRs as they kind of farmed out that work across a bunch of developers. So I'll be reviewing that, but the hope there is kind of just getting like basic test files and, one example of a happy path or something in there, because there's a lot of modules that just like don't have any tests whatsoever, right? So we're not really focusing on coverage, but just getting stuff. So adding tests in the future will be easier. I did have one question for the community. You can follow up in Slack, but I will ask it here for the sake of the recording. There was a question that came up from a few developers opening PRs. Obviously, the existing unit tests in the repo are much more complicated. So they use like kind of the Ginkgo Go Mega stack. A few developers opening PRs were wondering, and Matthew, your opinion is important, although everybody's is, for simpler tests, more like kind of very targeted unit tests, is it quote unquote okay to just use kind of basic Go testing package, or do we really want to try to standardize and be consistent on using Ginkgo Go Mega throughout? I didn't have a strong opinion, so I thought I'd bring it up on the call in case anyone felt strongly one way or the other.
I mean, I don't see any reason. Is there any reason we have to use the reason we were using the Ginkgo stuff is because the backend was obviously written with the controller runtime, and it also does have end-to-end tests that, well, it will have end-to-end tests that require quite complicated setting up of Kubernetes clusters that can be shared probably between the things. Because the controller will always have to use that. That's kind of my
Right.
thought. Right? So like
yes,
this,
yeah. So sorry, this is specific to backend. Then, you know, do we for places where we can? Is it okay to just use kind of the more native Go testing package if we don't require kind of the, you know, more advanced setup teardown stuff that Ginkgo Go Mega affords?
I just worry that what does that mean from like a testing perspective? Because we would have two different like. It's like it shouldn't be that. If you know how to write a test for Ginkgo, it shouldn't. It's painful. It's a bit weird, and we should probably have unit tests. But then, what's the situation where you want to test something that isn't related to Kubernetes? That's kind of what I'm trying to understand. Like where you don't have at least an M test cluster.
I would need to go look at these.
I'm not sure
PRs.
it's possible. Is what I'm saying. Yeah, like
feedback I got. Well, I think for like some of these, like if you think of like func.go in like the models package or something, right, where you're like you could like, you know, mock stuff out and like testing, you know, transforming from one model to another where there is some functional tests, you know, you could conceivably do that without anything else. So it's like, you know, these, you know, for certain files that are very, very specific in what they do, you might not need. Personally, I was of the opinion that we should probably just use Ginkgo Go Mega throughout because we can share helper functions and just like doing it one way always is good.
Especially once we parallelize it and figure out how to do that kind of stuff, right? It's kind of, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say because most things are complicated enough that they need the M test, and then for the small number of things that don't, we just already do stuff like this in the controller. You know, there are unit tests in the controller that are like, oh, it does this graph mutation function correctly, not result in a cyclic graph, you know, something. You know, like it's kind of, and I agree, Ginkgo is quite verbose, but I don't think there's a way to avoid it because we're going to be using it so many places. So, I mean, if you know how to do it, you're going to know how to do it, right?
Nope, I'm very comfortable with that answer. If other people feel strongly, feel free to follow up with me on Slack, but I'll give that feedback that we want to just kind of be consistent because odds are the overwhelming
and if there's something
majority.
wrong, we should fix that. Like, it's like Ginkgo is very flexible despite being verbose. And so we can reduce some of the painfulness by just making better standards, like doing tests driven by, you know, these like tables rather than
right,
like where you specify, you just define a function somewhere that takes an input of Ginkgo context and things like that. So yeah.
Okay,
There's gonna be a lot of tests.
Yes, I'll give that feedback, and I'll make sure that stuff all gets reworked.
And so that's not to say that it's like accept a bad solution. It's more like let's try and make Ginkgo work. So if you have a problem, let's fix it. You know what I mean? Like what's causing people to want to do that? If it's like
right, and I think these PRs that are being opened up right now will help kind of get like there's nothing there right now, so it seems like it's a lot of work. But hopefully these PRs open can kind of seed the ground, so in the future other community members don't. You know, the boilerplate's already there, so then just like adding one other test when all the
to a table, right?
there,
I think that's the big thing. It's right.
Easier.
It's like figuring out which ones need to run in sequence, which ones have state, which ones might need a separate Kubernetes instance, you know what I mean? Like, and that's something we haven't figured out yet, you know, like running multiple in parallel that actually are stateful. So they need, you know what I mean? And so this is, but that's not for integration. Integration tests are separate entirely, but
Yep, exactly. Okay, nope, that gives me the guidance I needed there. So hopefully once we get this, I mean, we can write unit tests forever, but this kind of initial testing infrastructure feature, once this batch of PRs that I'll, you know, review throughout next week get open, that I think would be good to close that one out because it's really just making sure, you know, there's a framework there that people can add new tests easier in the future.
Is there a control? Is there an integration test folder? There isn't right now because there's no deployment folder, I guess.
Not right now. So yeah, this is not focused on integration. That will kind of come next. And I think that covers all the big stuff. I think with Swagger, I was contemplating closing that feature. We have like the general stuff there. It works nicely. A couple follow-up PRs have leveraged it. So I was probably going to close the Swagger feature because I feel...
Has Swagger been implemented on every handler?
Yes. Although, sorry, there is one issue. And someone was actually investigating this. So I'll make sure I add that to the feature. But we were generating, like, if you look at, we're generating the Swagger file as Swagger 2.0. It feels like it should probably be OAS 3.x. And then there was some validation Like if you run that through the linter, the Swagger linter, it has a couple, like not big deal, but a couple warnings that feels like we shouldn't have warnings in our Swagger file. So once I get that sorted out, we'll get that feature closed. But it's there, and I use it extensively in testing PRs now, using the client just to easily hit stuff. So that's the update on those two epics. Going well.
Do we use, so like the reason I think because one thing to note, I think it's fine, but on the Kubeflow website we have a thing that automatically points to Swagger files. I think it does work with any Swagger version, because it just uses this is where I want to have it on here, obviously. This one comes from, like, this is, I think they're using V2 on Cube. I think it will work.
They are using V2. Okay, so we can leave, even in the V2 world, there was some like warnings that were getting generated. We just want to clean that.
You might get warnings for like security related things. If it's security related things, then I don't know, right? Because it's like, it doesn't know that we're actually using auth elsewhere, but because we don't know what the user will use in the end, right, for auth. So
yeah, I will, one way or another, I'll get that issue associated here, and then we
where
can
is that,
discuss it
by
in
the way? Is that under, is that issue here?
The Swagger is, Swagger feature is there. I just need to find this other issue that the developer was working to associate it, and then
okay, cool. Anything blocking here other than obviously the fact that I need to review some PRs? Yep.
Yeah, no, just PR review. I have a community member, not Red Hat, I'd like to say, who's going to be looking at the back end development guide. They said that they were busy for like a week or so, but you know, so we'll start to extend this framework more.
Cool. Using Tilt or something else?
Yes, sorry, using Tilt.
Okay, cool, awesome. Okay, Editor's not here, but anything else you want to add before?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, this one is, I don't really understand how these got split in this way, but it's fine. The goal here, I guess, is to be able to create workspaces and update them in very specific ways. Is anyone able to talk to this, or does anyone know what the current state of these are? Because this is obviously the things that were from May.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Eder when he's back next week. I'm guessing some of these features can probably close out. I know Paul has been doing a good job making sure all the front end stuff is merged.
I think it's fine to have this feature open if it keeps getting progressed. You know, like, I don't know if some of these, like, it's like, are we really happy with the creation flow? You know what I mean? Like, that's going to take a while.
Right. But yeah, I think some of these, it's just when Eder's back, there's a few I want to go over myself. I think we can make, some issues might also be subject to close that
sub items might be. So I don't know if we should ever close these out ones until we're pretty happy. Again, we should at some point say that this is fine and that that it works, but then we could have improvement ones. But,
right. Yes.
But like, it's this is like UX. Yeah. Okay. Other than that, I don't know if these are updated.
I guess the big one here that probably maybe in June, July, in our July story, right? You've highlighted this, Matthew, is one of the big things missing. We don't actually self-discover secrets and volumes. Like we have this like weird text box input, and that will definitely need cleaned up.
But the backend needs to do that, right?
Yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, there's missing functionality on the backend to do that. So that at minimum, we really need to get there before we can reasonably say we have a decent MVP.
So that does that?
Oh, no, this is that whole, so it's like right now it like relies on secrets and volumes already existing. There's no kind of catered flow in the UI, so we need to be better about that.
And there's also the question of whether we should push that into another sidebar tab as well as having it in the inline flow as well.
Yes, exactly. Probably. So we'll probably one of these we'll need a whole user story. Like I said, maybe July we'll talk about it.
Because that also lets us get rid of the volumes web app if we. Again, we need to decide if we want to have the volumes viewer, but I think I think it's going to be problematic keeping that. So like, I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, some people are going to want to run the old volumes viewer and they can keep doing that, but I just don't know if it's worth supporting it if I don't know how much people are actually using it. So like, it's we'll have to investigate that, but it could just be that you can run we can say you can run the old one for now, but you can't use it inline or anything, but it's like just there. And then in the future, we'll either deprecate it entirely, the volumes web app, and then make our new one in workspaces, because that's the goal of workspaces, to contain everything that, like, the backend is kind of going to be this mega thing, and the controller doesn't really do anything in this sense. The controller is the Kubernetes world, so for volumes. So yeah, I don't know. It just means that we have way less things running in Kubeflow if we only have two pieces for this.
So anyways, when Edder's back next week, I'll work with him so we can at least get this stuff articulated. When we prioritize it is a separate discussion, but at least make sure we're calling all this stuff out and there's issues.
Well, I mean,
for
yeah,
it.
clearly the goal that we should always come back to is making sure we close out this first piece and
Yes.
then starting to close out this piece.
Yes.
Because we're already quite far into June. Okay. Let's Paulo. Updating and running.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, yeah, not much update from this epic. The in progress tasks that are there are still in progress, especially from the back end. But this is a story that we are planning for a future sprint, so it should be open for a while now.
With the pausing and stopping. Oh yeah, Andy was doing some stuff here. I forgot. Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
edit workspace, Edder's out. I have opened up a few issues based on community discussions last week around how we're going to handle YAML uploads and whatnot, but I can't. Edder can't update the description to add new features or issues on his Epic. So when he's back next week, I'll.
We're gonna make sure the Epic
share that.
owners own their issues.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What's because I think you were doing some stuff here though that there's like, is it that you couldn't edit them to add the pull requests in? I guess.
Right. Yeah. No, it's like literally that. Right. So there are a couple other tasks I've opened up under edit workspace, but Edder's not around to add them. So we'll get those in place.
And maybe we should replace these issues with people who are actually owning them. But yeah. Okay. Cool. Anything blocking you, Paulo, on the start-stop things other than, I mean, so do we know what the status is on them though? Because I know there has been work.
So that's ready for review.
We're happy with that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So
The
with
back
start,
NPR, right, Andy? Yeah.
the back NPR that
Not for edit though, right?
not for edit, start, stop, and then
Yeah.
edit. People are even on the back end side. Work is getting ramped up now on that.
Okay. And is anything any pull request pending on the back end side for the edit?
I've just opened up issues for them, so I'll kind of share, if we have time at the end of this call, some just general questions with this raw YAML handling. I had a few questions to clarify, but we can have that talk if we have time in this call. Otherwise, I'll spill it to Slack. I just created the issues yesterday, so I just haven't had time to get a lot of feedback community-wise.
Okay, cool. We're getting through this now. The last one
Yeah,
here is
Just
Yep.
one comment.
Yeah.
Andy, I think this is for the edit workspace, not the workspace kind. So
Oh,
you mentioned the
very
YAML for the workspace kind, right?
I'm very sorry. This is edit workspace. I got that backwards. Yeah, workspace kind is what I've been focusing on. Thank you for
Yeah, I
calling
was
that
thinking
out. I'm
like
sorry.
workspace is actually easier because it doesn't do it in YAML. It does it in like it's just the payload of the existing create object with a patch.
Yes. So apologies. Strike everything I said. It was update workspace kind. That
Actually,
has some
put. We're gonna do it with a put, I
clarifications.
think, right? For the workspace
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's easier to just send the whole thing. Then it does raise the question of how do we deal with race conditions? My perspective is we just accept whoever the latest one is for the workspace update. But yeah, workspace kind is a bit more complex because it's raw YAML. Okay. Anything blocking you here, Paulo?
No, not at this point.
Okay, cool. You've got enough people, and it sounds like you've got people who are working. Are you aware of those people, or make sure that you guys share it so that Paulo can keep track of it? I guess kind of what I'm saying.
No, yeah, for sure. I've been talking to Andy all the time. So
Cool. Awesome. Okay, Hashad, I know that you probably are. I don't know what's happening here, so hi.
Hi. So there are two bits, right? Like one was for the connection. The connection bit, I'm still investigating that because when I was trying to take a look at the STO virtual services and then what is the current behavior which is STO providing, there seems to be like the ambient version also coming out, but it seems like it doesn't support the virtual machine. So we were just like, I'm just trying to see if that is something which we can do, and internally just trying to see what are the other methods which are people just using in overall for Kubeflow in different projects. So Autoproxy also came into picture. So just trying to investigate a little bit more. Once I gather some more information, I'll try to share those with you all.
So
Right
the
now, I'm
auth2
just
proxy
logging
is
in.
the default right now.
Is the default right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's what they use in manifests, and well, eventually when that code will move into dashboard. But like
Yeah.
it's a bit crazy. I mean, I had to come in and fix a lot of it, but it was it's once it's abstracted into the dashboard repo, I think it will make more sense that it's an optional way of doing it. So like this is kind of what I'm coming at, Shad. Like the goal of this thing is, yes, to make virtual services and SDO work, because like that's what the dashboard design is going to do. You know, that's going to assume that you're running SDO, assume that you're running OAuth2 proxy and DEX. But one of the things to make Kubeflow notebooks the standard IDE management system for Kubernetes is that it needs to be pluggable into another system, even if you're not using the rest of Kubeflow. Of course, profiles and central dashboard, I'm a little bit like, okay, that spec is kind of complicated to implement. But at least for networking, you could say, hey, we either don't use SDO or we use the inbuilt L7 HTTP proxy thing. Of course, then you have the auth problem, right? This comes back to, and so like, I don't want to let, so I guess the question is, I don't want to let this block the virtual service way. So like, this is kind of like, so at a certain point, we need to just start getting PRs in to add support for virtual service, because that's going to highlight something, which is that we need to have a deployment guide for the dashboard, right? So like, effectively, there needs to be a step which says, like, so and I know, Andy, you were working on like deployment guides, but because it needs to start, I mean, it literally, it's like, we can't even really test this bottom one, because it's not actually that hard to do. It's just we can't really test it unless you do it on an existing Kubeflow cluster, which is easy. Obviously, you could just do that. Or where we have a step which says, take these manifests, apply them, you know what I mean? And of course, in the future, that'll be go to the dashboard repo, check out this version and apply these ones. But right now, it's going to be go to this repo, apply manifests at this version at this very specific thing. It's going to be very painful. But because it means you need to get SDO installed, which we can probably say we don't need to do SDO from that repo. We can do SDO from our own repo. But like, it's like, oh, apply OAuth2 proxy, like you said, apply DEX, apply the SDO configs, not SDO itself. And so that's almost required to get to the virtual service, but then also the virtual service, you can't test it without that piece. So like, it's kind of a circular problem. So I don't want to, it's not like it's not like it would be hard to add virtual service reconciliation. Like literally the controller just needs to add one more CRD, right? It's pretty well spec'd as well, if I remember rightly. So from your perspective, is this something that we could try and, like, yes, thinking about how to generic it is very valuable. And I think so the two pieces to generic are to use HTTP, like, I always keep forgetting what it's called.
The ingress bit?
Yeah, it's not ingress, but it's like something like that, right? Like Kubernetes, HTTP path, I think, or something like that. HTTP gateway API. Yeah, the gateway API, right? So like, so the networking aspect can be replaced with these HTTP routes. In fact, they support Istio. They can be interpreted by Istio, if you will. But the security aspect cannot. And so this is kind of where it's like,
I think this is what Eddie was also mentioning. He was saying, let's not delay and let's start with the routing bit and authentication bit. Let's keep on revolving around it. And as we are gradually progressing, let's include that.
I would love to maybe even have a, like I think this is almost certainly going to be the thing, right? And so like, even if in the PR, I think there's a spec here which explains how you make the virtual service. Even if we just try and do an if statement here for like this one, and then just see what the limitation is, you know, and like what we would have to work around to generic out Istio. And then it's like, okay, the auth just won't work, you know what I mean? But like in that mode, but like it can be injected by a sidecar manually by the user, for example, right? And that's kind of, so like what I'm saying is I think there's if I type virtual service, there is there's a spec I wrote a long time ago, which was kind of explaining how each of the features maps to virtual service. I don't know if all of them would be supported by routing, you know, like these I think it actually, I don't know, is header rewriting supported? And so like at very least we could, so again, there is a PR that someone made. I don't think it's the right approach. I think they didn't quite understand how to add a dependency to the controller, because the controller needs to be aware of the structure of a virtual service CID to make one. So they didn't quite understand how to do that, I don't think. So, but it's relatively straightforward. There's even a section in the controller which says add the virtual service reconciliation here. But
are you like suggesting like let's set up the whole API gateway and like at least then keep on looking over the virtual service and set up these things?
So what I'm saying is at minimum, let's try and get features in here for so the current features here, right, are so this is a feature, right? So one of the work items on here, we need to create work items. Again, we can recreate this with you and close this one if you would like. But so that you can manage it. But like the first one needs to be, we need to start corralling people to solve this first issue and like get virtual services in here. And then people are going to be like, okay, well, how do I test this? Well, you need to actually have a gateway installed, right? And like, so you need to have auth2 proxy installed to do some of it. Well, you don't even need to for that. You can at least do routing for now, but you need to have a gateway. Yes, you need to at least have a gateway. So, but the gateway is not managed by the controller. So all I'm saying is like the first PR is, I don't know why workspace list is under here.
Yeah, I think that was the same question Andy asked me. And I think last week I was not here, but I think that was supposed to be a discussion. If you want
yeah, I didn't bring this up yet. It feels like that should be somewhere else.
But I mean, it is correct. Like it's the primary use of the workspace list table is to connect to the workspace. But I think it's not particularly complicated and it's more of a UX thing, right, at this point. So I think maybe that should be connected to, I don't think it should be under the same place that workspace kind is, because I think that's too much for that task. But I mean, technically it would be under here right now, I would say. But
we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk with Eder, and we'll have an update on that next week once he's back and we can sync. But I agree.
Okay. Yeah. So all I'm saying is that like, let's try and get some PRs in for just adding that virtual service, right? Like everything else is very theoretical until that's there. Because this is going to be one of the options, right?
Yeah.
And so if you need help to like know how to do it, or if you want because we should find contributors, right? The goal is like we've got a lot of people for the back end right now and front end.
Yeah.
We need more. So this is also going to be a thing to try and get on new contributors. And there is some other controller tasks as well if you just want to look at them up here, which are the culling piece, which I think someone was working on and is mostly done. We need to just review it. So I don't know what this. I guess we could like. Culling controller. And then what was the other one? It was, because we need to start pulling these into here anyway. So like, I don't know, it's the wrong title for the thing now. Oh yeah, and setting the state. So was that actually meant to be?
Yeah, it was supposed to be done by me, the non-main container stage one. But I need to probably put some more.
So there's some information, there's quite a bit of information. We probably need to move on, but there's quite a bit of information. I just want to make sure that something progresses here. Like, these ones here need to kind of get in here.
Got it.
And then we should rename this feature, this epic, to something. We should probably create a new epic for you that is like something that connects these things, like effectively controller stuff. I don't know, right? You know, like this kind of like platform stuff. I don't know, but yeah.
Got it. So I guess I'll start with the virtual service, see like who.
Yeah, let's just try and get the PR merge for this. Yeah. Let's just try and get a PR merge for this. And if you need help, this is something that definitely Andy and I should probably be aware of, so that everyone else can help as well. But
yeah, absolutely.
Like don't get blocked is what I'm saying. Like let's just set up a call and explain how to do it. Or if you need me to make the PR, I guess I can. But like I would prefer you to get across it. And of course that means merging the till PR and things like that. I need to do that probably. Okay.
Right.
Last one, Jenny. On the epics, and we're going to go through people's stand up as well, but
yes. So yeah, everything there, just lots of UX improvements there in flight. Just responding to that feedback that UX did a big sweep of the UI, created a bunch of like things to improve. So I've been working on those there. Yeah, and that those enhancements based on UX feedback. That's what we're prioritizing this sprint. And yeah, good progress there. Have several PRs up, and then everything else is in progress. And yeah, no blockers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely kind of strange laying out of features here, but okay. Cool. I know that's kind of confusing whether this is a feature or not, but yeah, it's hard to understand. But yeah.
How can it be
I don't know how we fix that. I don't know. I think more like this. Yeah, it's like it's not really an epic, right? That's kind of it's like that's I think that's maybe it's more like this long-term kind of iterative thing, right? It's kind of I don't know, because like I do think there's value to having the concept of a feature though, which is like, what are we doing overall? Like, what is the story of that's motivating this? Like, this is like a bit nebulous in its current form. But this one, like features, like the goal is usually to be, like, so it's very clear why you would. I mean, well, like it's selling it. Like, what is the implementation and motivation for this? Like, I think if we go into one of the other features, I think this is like, who knows, but like the user story, and then it's like motivation and like markups, or you don't need markups necessarily, but it's like when would we deem this to have been finished, right? And then the actual specific work items could be, so it could be something as simple as like each page or each flow or user interaction that you're going, that's like the feature that you're fixing, and then because then we can use that to figure out what's the most important use of time. Like, what are the critical paths? Like, probably then we can be, that's what I would say in the short term would be like, okay, where are the critical paths, features for the critical, we should have like improvements, or again, if there's generic cross-cutting ones, I see there's some here that are like cross-cutting in some sense. So that's, sure, they can maybe have a separate feature or something, but it's just like helping us understand why we're choosing to spend any time on any specific thing, right? That's kind of why the epics and features exist, I think. Also, again, for users or for contributors to say like, oh, I'm working on task this, but like, why? Like is it? And it's like, oh, it's because we're wanting to make a the user story is like, I don't know, I want to make a world-class thingy, and then the feature is improving the create workspace flow, or improving like accessibility, or or something, right? Like, I don't know what the this, because I just feel like if we have tasks that sit under epics, it causes, yeah, like I'm not saying these tasks don't need to happen. I'm just saying it's more like just trying to, so that we can prioritize. It's more about prioritizing. But I don't know, if you disagree, that's fine. But
yeah, I think just most of those aren't features. They're just tasks that live under this like iterative thing that like you were saying. So yeah, I think maybe it needs some more thought as far as like how we can kind of.
Yeah, we don't have, a feature is just a word. Like, it's not, it could be, again, in this case, it might not be a feature so much as it's a flow, or a, like it's optimizing the accessibility experience, or the, themability, right? That's like a feature, or start workspace flow. I don't know, like, and because then the tasks fit under there, and we can be like, oh, that feature is the more important one, and say, I don't know. I just, because I the whole goal of this is to not ever have tasks under epics directly. But I know it's a bit pedantic, but yeah.
Thank you for the feedback. I'm open to switching things around, and yeah, as long as the improvements get done, I think that's definitely.
Yeah, and because then it's, yeah, like that's what I'm hoping as well. Yeah, because like, why would we do? Like, I mean, like workspace list, this probably is, you're already kind of doing it here, right? You see what I mean? Like, you're kind of connecting this back to what would be a feature for this page anyway. Like,
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so
or you could have a feature that's padding. I don't know, right? But I feel like that's not a great feature. But like it's more like, then we can say workspace kind is done. This page is done, or like that element is done. You can now theme the UI or something, right? I don't know, like whatever and then the tasks. Like epic, and then the epic probably should have a goal as well. Anyway, so anything that's blocking you currently in any of these things anyway, either way?
No, that's it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll think about how we can restructure that and have
what's the minimum number of features that these could group under? You know what I mean? That's kind of, and then with the features having a motivation, acceptance criteria, and design. Yeah.
Thank you. That makes sense. Appreciate it. Sounds
And
great.
you can you're fully up to the discussion of how to do it. It's just like, you know, you get to make the call.
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the feedback.
Have you got enough people working on everything? Not, you've got.
I think I'm pretty much owning all of it. So yeah, it's fine. Things are great, and yeah, I think
Cool.
that's
Do you
fine.
want help or other people to help you, or
Thank you. I might reach out as help is needed, but at the moment,
not for
yeah.
me specifically, just like other teams, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. I think I'll reach out to the team as needed. I appreciate
It's like,
it.
and then the question comes like, how do you enable other people? Well, like maybe it's having some common rules or something that we all have, you know, like how does someone else like take what you know? Like how does someone come to the same conclusion without you that you would have come to? You know, that's kind of like making it so that we're never always dependent on anyone could pick up, because open source project, people come and go, and also like people go on holiday, you know, and whatever else, right? You know, like it's so maybe one of that's definitely one feature I think we should have, which is like agreeing on some set of design principles, maybe, or evaluation criteria. I don't know, because like I don't know, I wouldn't have been able to come up with your ideas here. You know what I mean? Like, so how did you? Right? These kind of questions.
Yeah, I think a lot of those are thanks to Kyle and the UX folks that we have now that are like helping to improve and review the UI. So yeah, I think there's definitely maybe some room for growth there, and as far as how we're tracking this stuff. So yeah, thanks for raising that point. And I think that's definitely like a long-term stretch goal as far as how we want to like handle
Yeah,
that.
I'm not saying in the short term. I'm just meaning like so that everyone can be. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, cool. Anything else you want to add?
That's it for me.
Cool. Okay, I don't know if any of these have owners yet, so I think we'll just move over these. Okay, so we really need to get these tasks under these are actually already under epics, but I think that's probably something we need to do. Maybe I don't want to put it, I'll put it under here for a separate task for you, Andy, because it is kind of this, but I'll just put it as you don't have to do it now or even this week or next week. I'm just saying like we should have a move all other tracking stuff from the meeting notes into epics features, and even if there are future ones.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I think as we move to standardized, particularly with like getting a good labeling system in to like scrape GitHub to see stuff, getting that all organized, at least, you know, for now on this paper, will help drive and know what's out there. So I'll start to look at that next week for sure.
Yeah, okay, cool. Because yeah, there's kind of some stuff here. It feels like this could really be moved up now, or removed because it might already be done. Okay, so let's go down to so we've got a logo thing. Let's kind of, so what's happened here?
Yes, so I just wanted to check in quickly with Tal. So Tal's created some really fantastic logo proposals for Kubeflow. So yeah, Tal, I wanted to check in with you. Are these like, do you think these are ready for like to be voted on? Is there anything else that you're currently working on, or yeah, what are your thoughts there? I created like a quick survey that we can do that would take just a couple minutes so that everyone can like vote on their favorite so that we can move forward with this. Yeah, Tal, is that something that you're open to doing now, or do you need some more time? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think for me, these are ready for vote.
I mean, it's not really going to be adopted immediately, I don't think. Like, I think the question is like, which elements, because I assume would be like iterating on a couple of the designs, right? Maybe we should pick a couple to iterate forward on that are diverse enough that they're, you know, these are very similar, right? So it's more like anytime when there's two equivalent things, we should probably vote between those groups. Is that kind of what you're thinking, or?
So I created like a just a survey that lets everybody vote on their favorite. I think I can make it so that we can select multiple options. Let's see. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, and then I can also drop the link in the doc so that everybody can see it there. Just a moment.
Because I also, yeah, I do want to have like a like what was the design philosophy behind choosing specific elements, you know, and why, what are we trying to actually communicate with it? Like, and obviously simple is better than complex, but like, you know, I mean, maybe this is a good element. I'm not sure, but like I also just want to make sure that we come to a conclusion that makes sense, and maybe, and also obviously once we have agreed on something, we'll probably iterate on it with the professional designers, or if you're got people internally who can make the vectors and all the other things, that would be great too. But
yeah, so the plan I think after is just to agree on maybe one or two, and then we can bring this to like CNCF, fill out a form, and then they'll help us iterate and like propose, have like a final version to deliver. So yes, is anyone or folks in the survey, is anyone having any issues with it?
yeah.
I'm seeing currently 0 votes.
I mean, I have to log in to go to it, it looks like. Is that
Uh,
the right one? Did you click to the right one?
I don't believe you should need to log in.
Yeah, it's asking me to log in as well.
that-
I'm seeing if I can just go through Google to do it, but
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, shouldn't have to log in. Just a moment. Okay.
and now that I did log in, I'm not actually seeing.
I think it's the second one. I mean,
Oh, okay.
we could do this in Slack as well. But yeah, it's a bit painful, I agree. But because I'm
Here we
not really
go.
sure, like, we're definitely not going to pick it based off this vote. Is kind of what I'm saying. It's like I just want to make sure that we, because are we agreeing, like, so like I don't know what's happening here, but because yeah, like, interesting. Well, yeah, I don't know. The logos are hard, and especially doing them by committee is almost impossible. Like this is kind of like the but like I'm not against any like I think these are early designs is kind of my interpretation of them right now.
So I think I made it so you can choose your top 3. So if we can just take like just 1 or 2 minutes just to vote here, I think the link should work now. And then that would help kind of just narrow it down, and then have like just focus on something so that we can bring that to CNCF and kind of move forward here.
I'm just hesitant to bring a specific design, but yeah, I guess we can show some mockups as long as there's diversity within the mockups so that they understand that it's not that they have the leeway to make changes. Like
yeah,
that's kind of that's my main concern there. It is 9 o'clock, so if people have to go, we can keep going for a little bit, but we didn't get to the stand-up. Oh my God. Okay, so if people want to respond, please do so. Does anyone in the meeting have any particular favorite right now? Or
It looks like folks are voting.
okay. Obviously, we're kind of sampling based off what people are in the meeting, but yeah.
Maybe in the meantime, I can just give it a little bit of context about these logos.
Sure.
So yeah, so these are few logos proposal for the Kubeflow notebooks or workspaces, the name we decided. They follow the same visual style of the existing Kubeflow model registry and Kubeflow trainer logos, as you can see there below. So we would want to maintain a consistent look across all Kubeflow projects. So in these various designs, I've incorporated elements related to code, pencil, settings wheel. So trying to keep everything pretty simple for good visibility, so you can view it pretty good when it's like in smaller sizes. So yeah, they all pretty much includes the same things, but they have like some minority differences.
I think there's another element type we could use, which is like that the reason why a lot of people use notebooks is to accelerate things that they could not do on their local machine. Like with like on a cluster. Like and like I do worry that using the pen, I mean, code is definitely an element that makes sense to be part of it, absolutely. Pencil, I worry might imply certain things about what it is, but that's fine if we agree. The other question I have is like, could we somehow indicate in a very abstract form, like this trainer one is very good, I think, because it's like, obvious what that means. That's neural network. But like, could we, how do we include a concept that is like, you're gaining the ability to do things you couldn't do locally, as well as because the question is like, why wouldn't I do it locally? Well, it's because there's more power on the cluster than I have, right? Or the data is there, or like accelerating. I don't know. I just wonder if there's any element that how we could include that element, or this also looks like it's got a right point. But,
yeah, it's a good question, I think.
Because I wonder if in the future when, you know, like workspaces will probably also manage jobs and other things. Like, I don't know, right? It's kind of hard to, like, it's going to get weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know, like,
I
what's
think
the,
we gotta
yeah.
find the core of what we want to show here as part of this.
Because this feels like creative, you know what I mean? Like a IDE almost, which is what it enables, but it's not what it is. If you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that's not good or not. I'm just, and this is better than 0, obviously, no matter what we do. Option 6. This is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that's winning the majority with our 7 votes here. And then, yeah, I can keep the survey open and drop it also into the Slack channel so that people can continue leaving their feedback.
Yeah, we're definitely, it's good to have first steps. I do think there is some benefit to agreeing on like what the design elements are, so that then when we give someone, like, I think it's easier to design something when you understand, like, as it's very hard to design something without a reason, right? Like, what am I trying to communicate? It's like a logo does. I know we're trying to do a lot with a small amount of pixels, but like, what are we actually trying to communicate, right? Other than a brand identity, sure, like that we are part of Kubeflow, right? So I think, yeah, I don't know if we want to go through those now, but like, it's clear that like you've done some of them, which is like consistency with Kubeflow, code, and I don't know what the pen would really represent, but something.
I think just for the sake of the recording, right? I mean, like the slash, you know what I mean? That's like, you know, kind of the, you know, bracket slash bracket. So I just think the pencil is like a clever play on like editing and crafting, but also it's like the, you know, kind of code slash standard. So it doesn't, you know, it's just a creative way to like introduce that slash element with, you know, kind of subtext to it.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, that's interesting. I do wonder, like, if it was just like code, I wonder, is it just code? Like, is that what we're doing? I don't know, right? It's an interesting question, right? Like, what is that even what you would define even an existing Jupyter notebook as, right? For a lot of people, like, is it more of an exploration? That's what people would see Jupyter as, I think. But like, the question of, because also it's
yeah, so
like
I guess like I view, and again, like it's just my opinion, right? But I view the pencil as kind of creativity and exploration, right? Like that's the, you know, and then I had even Tal was kind enough, like, again, very much in the abstract, but you know, your standard like greater than less than signs are more HTML done. So again, probably too abstract or clever, but like in number 7 there, splitting the cog into 2 pieces almost looks more like the squiggly braces that's more traditional to code, whereas then 8 kind of embraces that with just like your standard, you know, code bracket braces. But I kind of like the cog as a play off of that as well. The monitor itself, like accentuating the visual aspect.
I do wonder if something just as simple as the heptagon with a GPU style device in the middle would be sufficient. Like abstracted, symbolic, but like, and then, because I don't know, like, yeah, I mean, writing code is an element of it, but you can write code anywhere. And especially as people start doing more code in a lot of other places, the purpose of workspaces might become different. Like people already like to write code locally and connect their code to the workspace, if you know what I mean? Because then what are they getting from the workspace? Well, they're getting a shared environment that's accelerated on their Kubernetes cluster. And I'm like, and that's kind of where I'm like, I worry that this will make it very hard to explain to people that we are not just this. I'm not saying we're not, I don't say, like, you get where I'm getting at? I don't know. That's why I'm saying, like, let's all agree on what we are. And then like, and then like use that to inform. And some of these elements will certainly be considerations, right? Like what, like maybe this is the right one. Because like this, obviously, everything we do in Kubeflow is about deep learning, right? So like, but yet that it's like, why are they doing that? Well, it's because it's like flowing, right? Like it's like they, like you can kind of see that they've gone colors deeper as they, I don't know, right? I think also there is something to be said about maybe having multiple colors, like at least 2 colors. So yeah. Okay,
So
cool. Thanks for
Matthew,
your
can you
first step.
summarize again?
Well, I think we should all just agree on what we are. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying, right? So like maybe we should like vote on like design, like concepts. I don't know, like I don't know, but like my like and it's not my call in the end. Obviously, it's the CNCF's call really, but like it's what we say will happen, but like it's everyone's vote.
So you were suggesting another
like another
GPU
element that you could consider is just like some way to accelerate, define like expansion, be like tapping into the resource, tapping into or like being connected. You know, like this is like it's also about sharing and working together in the same environment. It's like
yeah, Tal, I can follow. I understand where Matthew's coming from here, so we can kind of
there's
I'll
also
follow
I think
up
there's
with
a
you outside
sharing
of this
aspect, and there's like it's collaboration, like acceleration and things like this, and maybe none of those can be communicated simply enough. But like
I was trying to get this notion of like distributed cluster resources, but like
that's really the
it
other way
48
around.
by 48 is hard.
But distributed
yeah.
is I don't think I would describe notebooks as distributed, right? I think it's more actually the reverse, centralized. It's more like coming in to one. It's more like it's
sorry,
more like,
yes, you are correct. Sorry, it's sharing across.
It's like everyone multiple things coming into a shared workspaces. It's like a place you go to do work, right? Like
right, which works from a user perspective, but also from like a hardware resource perspective. It's like
so what's an analogy from
people...
past that happened in like factories, like tooling, obviously, like machines and mechanical stuff, obviously, but that's a bit abstracted. I do like the idea of GPUs or accelerators in some form, but yeah, like it's an interesting. I don't know how to do that simply, but you know, like but yeah, or circuitry. Maybe that's not really good. The circuitry is a bit abstract. Like coming. I think collaborating within a workspace is probably the core purpose of it. So right in the end, it's like getting more resource than you had in a way that you can share with multiple people while being closer, not being on your local machine. You know, like that. But I mean. And definitely code elements. I don't know. I like the beginnings of it. Keep going down the path is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, thanks. I think I have what I needed. I will explore some more options.
And write down what motivates you to do specific things, and that might help you. Like, what are you trying to communicate? That's kind of the thing I would love to understand. Like, you know, whenever someone presents a logo to like a company, usually they're like, oh, I have these options. Here's why I did this. You know, I did this because your brand, you've told me is green, or it's like, you know, it's connected to people or something, you know, and like, it can be very abstract, you know, even it could be like, well, how the hell does that arrow mean that? I don't know, but like, you know, like certainly like even going inwards, like maybe it's like these like code ticks kind of become pointers to some middle, I don't know, right? Like, and then maybe they kind of point in but actually kind of end up looking like a GPU die, I don't know, somehow, like I don't yeah, I'm not sure, but like that could be hard. But or memory even. I don't know, but it's about connection. And anyway, sorry, this is good. Okay, we've got some discussions. Let's keep it moving, I guess. Okay. Anyone else want to add anything, suggestions, ideas?
Thank you, Tal, for your great work on these. These are really fantastic to have all of these like ideas. And yeah, we really appreciate your help kind of moving this conversation along.
Thank you, yes. Okay, we didn't quite get to this, so let's go through what people want to say. Paulo, do you want to give a quick thing of what you did?
Sure. Well, there's not much to be said there, but I opened the PR kind of standardizing the way that we import React hooks, just so the code gets a bit cleaner and, you know, equaling all the files, the TypeScript files. And I'm planning to check a little more what we can do regarding linting and start standardizing some ways that we that the front end code is organized, such as directory standard for naming directories with lowercase, uppercase, and stuff like that. So, and also automated tests for a few areas that we skipped because we had a lot of indefinition. So as we get more defined UI, I think we can get started to do some Cypress tests to be sure that we are not breaking anything when we merge new code. And I'm also reviewing PRs, especially from Guilherme and Charles.
For front-end stuff?
Yeah, for front-end stuff. Guilherme is working on the workspace kind details page, and Charles on the workspace kind creation wizard. So I'll be
Cool.
reviewing those PRs as well.
Awesome. I think, Jenny, you're doing these reviews and enhancements.
Yep. Just same as before. Those reviews and the UX feedback PRs based on that. I think I can create some like clear umbrellas. We have that tracked in Jira with like kind of more clear umbrellas. So I'll make sure to go in and kind of sort those a bit better.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add there?
That's it for me.
Awesome. Andy, obviously doing a lot of stuff. Maybe we should come back to you.
Save me for the end if we have time. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So Hashad, obviously you're going to look at that. Definitely exploring these things, but I think the next step definitely should be what we talked about, which is just try and just see if we can get it. And if it doesn't work, then let's see where it fails. You know what I mean? Like that's the most important. Sometimes it's getting a piece of PR in. And if you have problems with back-end testing, please talk to Andy and Bill.
All the rest of the folks, yeah. Will do.
Cool, awesome. Anything you learn is great knowledge, but obviously we do need to explore these things, like you said. Okay, live. I don't know.
He's not on the call, but that was very much around the container. That I covered that directly in the my Epic overview. So I've been working closely with him.
Cool. Oh, nice. Yep, manifest for that. That's good. I assume this is this. Oh no, yeah, sure. Okay, Adriana.
I don't know if she's on the call. She's a Red Hatter, but like new and getting a lot more plugged in here. So she did open up a PR, Matthew, I'd like your opinion on, where it's basically like, as I run controller end-to-end tests or just do my local testing, getting a fresh kind cluster is just annoying and monotonous. So she just added I think it's called kind-notebooks makefile target, which also optionally includes a metrics API server, because we started to just explore what that is based on discussions me and you had. And so I'm having her start to like dig into that. We talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago, but this like initial PR she opened is just a new makefile target to like kind of splat stuff down. Ideally, from what I've been looking at, Tilt can then leverage the makefile to do a lot of that setup stuff. So we still have these things centralized, but I like this logic in the makefile in case someone doesn't want to use or like Tilt, right? We can kind of get it in the makefile, Tilt piggybacks off the makefile, and that ties everything together.
Well, Tilt should also work with an existing cluster, like if you have a K3D cluster.
Yes.
But like the metric server thing is a problem, right? Which is we definitely depend on a metric server. And I also don't want to diverge too much from kind with testing, like testing, like kind is guaranteed to be compliant with the API and and always be available for any new Kubernetes version because it's how they test Kubernetes. So like So I definitely think our implied default should be kind. The way we do some of this stuff, and I know it's a bit messy, but in the upstream for reference is in the existing Kubeflow repo, we just have these like, I don't know if it was under here. Yeah, where there's like silly SH scripts that do it, but
right. And so basically, so like if you look, I've reviewed the PR that Adriana opened, right, where it's just kind of like using just like common out of like that PR 413, right? And this is just to kind of create a kind cluster that has cert manager and metric server in it.
So you can use kind YAML files to define the state of the cluster as well, including pre-installed Helm charts, I think, but I'm not sure. But so it might be safer to do that in a deterministic way. I'm not sure. But
okay, I'll have her take a look at that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I know that it's. I don't know if we do it in. This is just installing kind, but this one. See these YAML files, right? That I know you can add more things as well, but like this is just much more declarative. Like what.
Okay, no. That makes sense.
And it's like, because otherwise we're parameterizing bash scripts and it's just like, oh, okay, yes, this is getting a bit hectic. Especially when you're doing stuff like, oh, I want to make sure that a Helm chart was installed before it finishes starting. we can define a state being like metric server is up, because we can't do any of the tests until the metric server is up.
Right.
So, yeah, sounds good.
Okay. No,
Awesome.
we'll explore that and keep you posted on that.
Cool. Awesome. Great to have new people. Charles. Hello.
So
Yes.
according to last week's conversation, I switched the view to I switched the wizard or the form to require YAML upload for workspace kind, and then after that we can switch to a form view to kind of edit the basic information. Like we said, like the name, the IDs, like descriptions, as well as like some other basic information from the images as well. And yeah, I'm still working on it. I got a lot of feedback from Kyle with on the Miro board, but I haven't incorporated a lot of those changes yet. Working on those today, and yep, no, nothing blocking me at the moment.
Cool. Yep. I guess who's going to be the one to review this once it's done, or is it everyone just kind of?
I think well, Paulo is gonna review the code, and Kyle and maybe Jenny as well will kind of review on the UX side, I guess.
Cool. Thank you. Anything blocking you, I guess?
No, not at the moment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. This person, how do you say your name? I don't know how to say this person's name.
Guilherme, but I don't think
okay.
he's on the call today.
Cool. He clearly was at some point because he added himself, but yeah. Anyway, cool.
Yeah, he had to drop, but he's working on the workspace kind details page, where we since our last discussion regarding workspace kind details, we decided to do a different page for the cluster admin instead of reusing the same workspace list.
Makes sense. Is there a PR that's ready, or is it just being reviewed?
Yeah, there is a PR open. I talked a little with Guilherme about it. He's gonna change a few stuff, but we will display some columns will be different based on what we thought for the cluster admin, and to allow some more filtering capabilities regarding hardware use there. And then we're hoping to show it probably on the next meeting and gather some feedback on it.
Cool.
One thing that came up there, Matthew, is I know we have discussed doing a count, like when you look at that workspace kind details view, and then you get a count of all the different workspaces, like kind of pre-filtered based on certain criteria, right? Here's the number of workspaces using this image config versus this image config versus this pod config. We'd also discussed, here's the number of workspaces running in this namespace. But today, the controller doesn't do that namespace count aggregation. And I wanted to get thought, should we get a ticket opened up to like add that in the controller reconciliation loop so we can say
we're going to be running into the 1 megabyte limit, I think, on a lot of these things. Like you can only have 1 megabyte worth of text inside of a CRD. And like, I mean, obviously some of these metrics, I don't know, it's a mess, but like, I guess the question is, what is the reason for doing that when you can just get all the workspaces that use that workspace kind and group them or something? Or if like how many could there realistically be? A couple thousand, right? Like it's kind of like, in some extreme case, like 10,000, it's like, whatever, front end can easily group that.
Which is fine, but then should we remove the existing count, right? Because we're kind of in this weird bridge now. So we could like remove all count code. But like
so
right
the
now,
reason
it's
for
like,
those ones is actually different though. So the overall count is obviously important because it just tells you how many are being used, and it's useful when you're in the kubectl. The number of users of each one, I'm trying to remember if it's used in the admission webhook. I think it might be, to prevent you from deleting options that are used. But I think maybe there's something even smarter than that, though. I think it's smarter. for workspace kinds, it's like there's a block, there's like a deletion block, which I forget. I want to see if it just slips my mind what it's called now. The one that tells the Kubernetes API. What the heck is it called? I don't know. It's the one where you put a thing where you say, this resource cannot be deleted until this label is removed. Not label, metadata, whatever it's called, thingy. Finalizer, that's the one. But that's not used for options. So like, I don't think, yeah, no, it's not, no. Yeah, so like, so I think I'd have to check. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Like, those ones are not a huge deal to leave there, I think. They're helpful for admins anyway. But, because when you're just using the CLI, that's, you know, nice. But what you're saying is a thing people will need, which is to know. But there's so many ways to cut it, right? It's per option, per workspace, per namespace, per just per namespace, like how many are in each workspace profile, and like, because we don't need to expose that view until you're in a specific workspace. You're only really ever dealing within the workspace kind. You're only dealing within the context of one workspace kind. So like, it's it might let us, you know, have like, it requires the backend to do something like a diff effect, because like normally the backend can do it. Sorry, what am I saying? But like because the backend already has that diff constantly there, right? That's like the front end just makes a request which says, give me the namespace groups, and then because there's no additional request to the actual Kubernetes cluster, because the backend's already caching everything. Like, yeah, it's just a backend thing. So sorry, I'm going around in circles. Like, what are you asking whether what were you asking whether the backend should do it or not? Or
well, right, but like, so just trying to understand like the way it works for your insight on saying, well, the controller might actually use these existing counts. It's just like naively.
They're not for for the backend. The controller does what the controller does, right? Like, sometimes the backend also uses similar things that the controller needs, but the backend literally has every single workspace in the entire cluster in memory at all times.
Right.
So like,
I'm trying to get an idea of implementation consistency, right? Because the backend today just says grab the workspace kind spec and copy these count attributes over to this part of the backend API schema. And so, you know, if the thing here is, well, in the future, any new stuff will just be purely a backend construct, not copying over from anything else the controller is going to add, that's fine. I just didn't know which way to zig or zag here.
There is a question of efficiency, right? Like, so metrics are like, whether you like, effectively there will be workspace kind metrics, right? That's certainly one of the core features of the workspace kind admin pages metrics. Some of them will be even more complicated stuff like average utilization across options and things like that, probably. Like, are they actually using the CPUs they request and whatnot? But like, you can always solution out fast ways to do it, you know, like we can effectively store it in a data structure inside the backend, which whenever it receives changes to workspaces, it checks whether one of the metrics would have been adjusted by it. Of course, you could end up in an out of sync state, because what the controller does is literally every time it reconciles it, it actually starts from 0. Like, it says, it counts up the number of workspaces every single time it loops, right? So adding more diffs as well as, because don't forget, every time you update a workspace kind, it checks every single workspace that, well, that's technically not true actually, but it's hard to explain. But like, anyway, all I'm saying is the backend should do most of the work here, I think. And in the case where it's like a slicing and dicing, like table view, probably the front end should do it, you know? Like, it just depends on what,
okay, I'm cool with that. I'll talk with with Paulo, and we'll figure out
like, part
the story there.
Part of me thinks that I think we had this like concept of having, you click on a workspace kind, the top section is about these overview metrics. Like, how many are there in things? What namespaces are they in? What's the most popular options? You know what I mean? Like, what are the most popular options? What are the most popular pod configs, image configs, and pod configs? And then under that, you still have a list of all of them, right? And then you can do like filters in some way to filter your metrics, or maybe the other way around. I don't know. Like, you click on the option and then it filters to the workspace. I don't know which way around that should look, but The question of where that should happen is a complex one. I agree. So is there a specific question?
No, I think that's good. I mean, the general feedback is don't keep shoving more and more stuff into the controller, and the back end is totally capable of doing this, and as is the front end in this case. So I'll work with Paulo, and and we'll just arrive at the right way to do this.
Tabs could be open at the same time on. It probably makes sense for the backend to cache it, because don't forget it. We don't cache. Yeah, we could, but we don't cache. We cache auth, but we don't cache requests right now. The backend talks to the controller, sorry, to the Kubernetes cluster with caches, but it doesn't. That's interesting. I don't think it matters. That's a solution for another day. But like, DDoS it for now. Cool. Okay. And I guess Andy, your thing.
Yeah, so I think we covered most of this. 413 we talked about. So PR reviews for backend, scoping out new work, that recorded video I talked about. The 413 PR we looked up. This 368 PR, Matthew, I think is also ready. This is actually exposing the existing pod config and image config counts in the backend API schema. I've tested it, had them improve some efficiency and calculations. So I'd love to get that 368.
So where are we saying, was this a backend PR?
Yeah. So this new and reviewed. We already talked about 413. You said to look at a more declarative style. That's fine. And then that 368 is the next one, which is the existing workspace counts, pod config, image config. I reviewed, tested this, and gave a couple rounds of feedback. So that's like, if you approve it, it's good to merge, but it's been, tested.
We're just pulling that directly out. What's happening here?
We have to get, so because the schema in the CRD is an array, we just build a map to then, as we're like building up the workspace response scheme, give me this count, give me this count, give me this count, versus iterating through it. So it just like builds the map from like, option ID to count.
Oh, yeah, but wait, what? But that's just because this is under the get workspace kind function, right?
Right.
Why is
so that's the root workspace count, and then we add in counts to each pod config and image config value. If you go to the comments on this, I show a screenshot of the end result with a bunch of neon colored arrows. There is then the output that we're looking at.
Oh, I see, because you've got this. So the issue is that this information is not necessary for most times when you call this method. I mean, maybe it is. I guess it's a question as to whether the front end of the spawner should tell you how many other people in your cluster are using these options. But there's not information that, strictly speaking, a normal user needs to know. Right? Like, because I think oh, wait. Is that true? What happened? Because what else calls the workspace kind, right? No, nothing. Oh, no, it does. Yeah, so because the purpose of this get workspace kind API right now is primarily to enable the workspace creation flow. Like, it's like you do a get, but like you do a get all my workspace kind options as the first step when I click create a new workspace, right? And then it's like, oh, here are my available workspace kinds, and then I go into a specific one and I see all the options. Of course, in the future when these have megabytes worth of stuff, it might be a bit excessive. Oh no, you got.
Well, I mean, this like drives the workspace kind list table as well, right? I mean, if we want to like query param this to like an include counts thing, but last time we met, the feedback was let's embed this information inline so it's co-located versus having some separate struct. And
definitely for that, yes. This is fine, but I'm just saying, like, does this information, like, this information doesn't, is it more like there is a separate path with more sensitive information? Like in the future, would we ever want to add even more? Like, this is not that sensitive. It's slightly sensitive, But like, you know, like the normal users do not need this information, right? Like this is kind of, unless it's like sort by popularity. I guess this one you could argue, sure. But like what I'm saying is very quickly we're going to get to the point where it's like, show me which users are accessing which workspace kind options. And it's like, okay, well, clearly the API should not be returning that information to every user every time they create a new workspace.
Yeah, very, very fair. Yeah. So I guess like in my mind, the workspaces count is like inherently useful information to always know about the workspace. Do you always need it? Well, no. I mean, you probably don't always need the hidden attribute by a similar, you know what I mean? So
I just worry that I'm worried that we've got two purposes of this API now, which we can't access control separately. That's my only well, because again, this is on a get specific. That's interesting. It's actually interesting. From an auth perspective, what check do we do? I mean, we're getting pretty in the weeds here, but we can talk about this after. But anyway, is there anything else we can go through here that you're blocked by?
Those 3 tickets under outstanding issues. That's the tilt PR, the secrets PR,
yeah, I'm
and the
gonna
start
forcibly do that stuff today. That's what I'm gonna do.
Cool.
Unless someone really goes crazy.
So yeah, so no, other than that, that's the current status.
Yeah,
of
okay. Anything that yeah, so the next stuff.
This is I'll put like, so we just talked about workspace count by namespace. For the put workspace kinds, the YAML stuff, right? So I just have like rapid fire questions here. I can post these offline.
Yeah, let's end the recording so people don't have to stay. They can stay if they want to hear discussions or if they want to ask questions, but I do want to just quickly think about this from a like a future perspective, because it feels like I'm just my inclination is that maybe we do need a fully separate API for the admins, or at least some way to access control it. So what I just wanted to check was how we do that, and I will show people how to check that just because it's useful for people to know. But like you go to V2 obviously, and this is a backend thing. So you go workspaces backend, and then the way we do auth in the backend is by we go to the API page, and then the handlers for each of the various HTTP parts, which are all listed here as well. But this one we're talking about is workspace kinds, which is under workspace kinds handler. Yeah, workspace kinds. Actually, are we talking about get workspace kind or get workspace?
Workspace kind, right? Because that's the umbrella that aggregates the workspaces up under it.
We're getting a specific one, because that's what I'm saying. Like this.
It goes in both. You would get the counts of all of them for each element in the list, and then the individual one just has the counts for it. So it's consistent in both places right now.
2 seconds. Okay, come back. And then, so I just want to show people where this is. So workspace kinds handler. The way this works is that it's pretty weird. It's hard to explain why exactly this is necessary, but it's because you actually have to unpack the request sometimes to understand what the auth check should be. We've got these things called resource policies and auth policies that we've made. But in this case, getting a specific workspace kind, we check that you're able to get that. But then list workspace kinds, which is this one, we do check that you can list. Interesting. Because this is like an auth question of like, what additional permission does an admin have? Like, how are we determining whether someone has the admin page? Like that's, like this is, because right now their user ID is checked whether they have a role binding that would have given them access to run the kubectl command to list workspace kinds right now, which everyone is assumed to have right now, which maybe it's more like there is, like this is correct and this is how admins are, you know what I mean? Like this, and these permissions are only for admins maybe. But then like the get and list on workspace kind maybe for only admins, and then maybe we have the information required for the create workflow should actually be returned somehow under. It's you know what I mean? Because like the problem is that our auth model right now is mapped directly to the CRD. And like now we've got an abstracted admin concept, but then even if we added a new set of admin APIs, how would we distinguish whether you have that or not?
I hear you. I don't know if we need to solve. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I don't know if we need to solve this right now or waiting 3 weeks makes, you know what I mean? Like, but go ahead, Harshad.
I was thinking just maybe should we think about the grouping? Like Kubernetes have this groups, right? Like user groups. You can also think about if the user have like a specific role binding and go from there.
So it's kind of complicated from a transitive perspective. Like what's actually happening at the end result here for auth, just so people know, is that a request is made to the backend, usually because the user is browsing the front end. The browser has, in the default Kubeflow implementation, again, this is going to be an option for Notebooks 2.0, but in the default one, the way that it tells the backend who is talking to it is that the user is prompted to log in through an auth provider, and then OAuth2 proxy is unpacking the JWT that they have got back from that, and then injecting it with their request so that they can't send whatever they like, saying I'm whoever I like. They present a valid JWT, and then the JWT is unpacked, and then from there, that is what is coming in when we do this auth check. Require auth is looking at their incoming request, because this is after the injection has taken place. And then it's saying, do these auth policies allow that request to have taken place? So the only information that the backend has is who is talking to it. And the two ways that they have that is groups that they're a part of, Kubernetes groups, and user and their username, like their actor, like email ID. So like and both presented. So the question is like, we do have an auth problem here for the workspace kinds, and I think we identified this before. We do need to decide how we're going to do this. Like it's pretty straightforward to change. It's just a matter of like, right now our auth model is based off those two things. That's the only thing we know. So like what?
So when you say user and the group, are we so as the workspace kind, is it itself a CRD? Like, are we not looking if they have the get access or view access or edit access to that?
That's what this is, right? And so the problem is that we're assuming. So again, it's whether they have get workspace kind access in this case, but for workspace, it's per the namespace as well. Like, so like you can't get someone else's workspace, you know, but because each user will have access to one or more profiles, right? So in this case, it's a list of checks, right? So it says get on workspace with this namespace and this name. That's for workspaces. And so this one's obvious, right? This one's clear how that works. And admins would just have a cluster-wide binding, you know.
Right.
But the workspace kinds, the issue is that the front end does need this information to present the create workspace UI. But
I would have assumed that it would be the same, right? Like the cluster admin would have the get view access of this particular workspace kind. And if it is there, then in the UI, you get to show them that information. If not, you don't.
I wonder if it's more that we should have a sub resource which can have separate permissions. Like, if we really want to be Kubernetes.
What do you mean by sub? Like,
that's
what sub resource?
Like, so like the issue is like, how do I know whether I even, so the controller, we don't have a concept of, we do actually have a concept of cluster admin right now in the profile controller, but it's pretty messy. It's like, it's just a list of emails that are allowed or not allowed it. That can be improved. But
so to understand this correctly, there is three type of users here, right? One is the general cluster admin. They're the one who has entire access to the Kubernetes cluster. Then there is the normal user who is creating the workspace, and in the middle there is the administrator who let's call them a Kubeflow administrator, right? Or only administrating workspace kind and these kinds of resources.
But they're doing it through the UI. They're doing it through the UI.
Through the UI, right? If I'm understanding this correctly, then the Kubeflow admin has the access for workspace kind CR, has the get view access of that CRD, and they have all namespace access for workspaces as well. So through the UI, like when we are doing the authentication, like wouldn't we be checking this particular thing as we are checking it in backend?
But the
So
problem is that users right now, problem is that the front end, this is part of the reason we need to get the front end connected to the back end as soon as possible with
Right.
auth. But it's like the front end right now is going to call get workspace kind.
right.
Right? Like it's going to first call get workspace kinds, you know, the list one. It's going to get these because like say I click create workspace. To be able to create a workspace, the first question is what workspace kind is it? You know, what kind of workspace is this? Then it's like,
Right.
okay, yo, it's one of those. And what is the envelope type for a workspace list envelope? Do we know? It's literally just a full object, I guess.
Yeah, it just wraps stuff in a data element.
Like it's not just is what I'm saying is, does it actually include the options as well?
Yes.
Interesting.
So like I totally understand this point. I guess mine's more point in time. Today we have no information that else I will say workspace counts is not sensitive information. We have no information today that necessitates different views of list workspace kinds between these users. So like I know we need to solve this problem, absolutely. But with other things to talk about on this call today,
I know the solution. I know the solution. It's actually pretty simple. The workspace kind page should be visible to everyone. The only difference is what workspaces you can see. And so then this answers the question where the aggregation needs to take place as well. It needs to take place in the front end. Because like the issue is that like effectively you just shouldn't know any, like effectively, like it's more like the admin page is when you have the ability to edit them, sure, is great. But we do have this split brain problem though, is like, oh, someone could edit something, but somehow not have the ability to access the cluster, like all of the workspaces, you know what I mean? So they may not be able to see one of the workspaces that would be affected by their edit. What I'm saying is like, maybe the admin page should have, okay. Because like the admin page could be useful, right? If you're, oh, but then what the heck do we show you in terms of listing workspace kinds if there's ever a filter per profile, and like which profile do we show you?
So is the problem statement here that Kubeflow admin might not have access to one of the namespace where the workspaces are there?
That's not normal. That shouldn't happen. But
right.
The other way around is more like, I have no way to know whether a user is an admin.
As in the controller or the backend, right?
The
backend doesn't know.
The controller
Right.
doesn't have any concept because it doesn't. It's not a front end thing. But
exactly. So
the backend doesn't though at all.
But we are checking the workspace kind if they have access to workspace kind resource or not. So I'm missing the point probably.
Well, they will have that. Is what I'm saying. Like it's like
if someone has the access to workspace kind, they are the admin, right?
No, because otherwise, then how does the front end do a create workspace flow?
So what I'm understanding is front end always sends the request to backend. So front end would just say, this is the user, this is the request they have said. It will send it to backend. Backend would validate if this particular user has the permission for it or not, and then resend the payload, right? Saying not authorized. So front end would just show that.
No, it's like no, like to like everyone needs to know the workspaces that are available. Is what I'm trying to say, because the front end
workspace kinds, right? The first step of the wizard, Harshad, is choose what workspace kind you want your workspace to fall under. And so that's like, you know, by that, everyone has to have that list view. And so then what does that mean from the UI? Particularly if you go in, if you can list, then you can presumably view that workspace kinds page, which we've been kind of viewing as an admin page. But then that's like, you know,
they're two different purposes, right? It's like, it's effectively like the only payload information, like when we the reason why this payload looks like it does is strictly to enable creating workspaces, right? Like it looks like this because this is everything you need to know to make a workspace. And create the page as well, like the icon, and you know, it's like it's to create the display, which you also do need in the workspace kind list as well. But the
So in the backend, like for create, wouldn't we be checking the create type of role binding? Like not role binding, like role. If for workspace kind, if someone has create type set for them, then they should be able to create it. If they don't have it, that means they are just a normal user and they're just able to view it.
You could imagine many auth situations though where you want to be able to allow editing a workspace kind, but not necessarily creating new ones or deleting them.
And that would be done by a non-administrator? No,
like
right?
there'd be like, you can imagine super admin level stuff, you know, like it's kind of, maybe you don't want to let people delete workspace kinds, but you do want to let them
create it.
Add a new option. Just add a new, you know. Of course, maybe that's not relevant, but that's not really relevant to this discussion though. I think that's more like, this was an issue we talked about a while ago. I just don't think we came to a conclusion, which was the workspace kind page. What is it for? It's for admins to, mainly it's for admins to add new options, right? That's mainly its purpose. And to do that, you need some metrics, but you also probably do need information about namespaces that not everyone should have, which means that it does need to be a sensitive page, at least probably. And so, like, because a lot of this is not needed anyway for a workspace kind overview page, right? These informations are maybe like this. We just don't have a way of knowing who's an admin. That's fundamentally the problem.
So I guess I'm not sure that the takeaway here is like, one of the things, should we not, so we have this work item that we're literally sharing here, expose counts in the backend API that we had previously agreed upon. Is the thought now, because the UI isn't using this, right? I just wrote up an issue yesterday saying, hey, UI, make sure we use these counts that the API is exposing. But is the takeaway from this, let's not include this aggregate information?
Which page would use it?
I mean, it's there or not, right? So it would certainly be used in the workspace kind list table. But again, if we just want the front end to always do these calculations, which they're doing today, we could just close this issue and not.
Well, I mean, it's fine to get this information. I think it's a little bit sensitive to be sending to every single user, but like,
I mean, I think there's some value add as a user creating a workspace. Like
what's
if you
the
have
most
like
popular one?
right, exactly. If you have 1,000 image configs in here, it might be useful to say, oh, 500 people are using this version of Jupyter SciPy in my org. I'll start here if I'm not strongly opinionated, which this does help drive. Not that we're leveraging that today, but
that's fine. And then the question is also like within my org though, right? You know, if lots of orgs are using it, it's like maybe this image is really popular because there's one person who just has a crazy amount of them, you know what I mean? Rather than like, it's actually important to my org, my team. But that's impossible to really capture that concept. Sending the workspace counts is not a huge problem. My just worry is that it's going to result in us adding more and more things to the workspace kind page. As we add features to the workspace kind page that are not necessary for the front end. For the user, normal user, but then we still have the problem of, okay, if we had two different APIs, like I think the correct answer is kind of what I was saying though, which is that it is a problem to like hide the admin page. Who knows? That's a separate question. But the like probably when you view the admin page as a normal user, it should be like request things rather than actually be able to do things. But my worry is like, is this the limit of what we'll need? Is what I'm saying, right? On the workspace kind list page. And
yeah, no, that's very, very fair. This absolutely sets a dangerous precedent that we wouldn't want to fall trap to, right? It's not just we're going to always add and expose all of this other stuff here because, as you point out, there are two separate use cases for this API. I don't think this PR violates it, but we need to be very, very mindful moving forward that we keep that in mind. And like you said, there might be a case in the future of needing two different APIs or query parameters that somehow tie into like admin, like, we know this person's auth does an admin. Maybe you don't even need query parameters. If we can identify who an admin is, that might add other attributes here. But some of that we kind of have to like wait for this to evolve to even understand how to scope that, I guess.
So like the backend can do something very fancy here, right? Which is only tell you from the ones that you have access to. Like it is actually possible as long as it doesn't get the information from the controller, right? You know what I mean? Like and that would solve the problem of like which are the most popular in your team, right? Because like
you have access to
because those are the
right?
ones you can see, right? Like, you know, like it does mean that this query is a little bit more complex, but it just natively happens in the workspace kind overview page as well, right? Because it means that in the future we could have like metrics and things like that under here that the user is allowed to see. Like if they're able to see the workspaces, then they can see the metrics for those workspaces. They would see them anyway. So like maybe that's the solution here, which is like, yes, this information is sensitive, but the user would be allowed to see it, you know, like this kind of, so doing that efficiently becomes the bigger question. Because I feel like that is a cool solution, right? Of course, it means that we need to make it so that admins, like there's an override that if you can like edit, you always see everything, even if you don't have that permission, you know what I mean? Or something like that. But like it's a bit messy, like, because like, for example, like, would that be useful in the spawner? Probably, right? Some information about metrics, like it could, you can imagine situations where it's like, oh, that's really expensive. You already have 3 of those GPU instances already. Are you really sure you want more? Like this kind of, there's like 3 with low utilization already. What's going on? You know, like this kind of, I don't know. It's an interesting question. So, but from this perspective, though, like, is this so fundamentally, my question is this: is this going to be the same API used for the backend? Sorry, for the admin page and the front end page, or not? Like, that's the fundamental question that we need to answer.
Right, and I guess for now, I'd say the answer is yes, and in the future, the answer is probably not. And I think incrementally, that doesn't paint us in a corner. Let's get some basic functionality in here that enables the UI, and then I'm happy to write up an issue talking about enhancements here to make sure this count honors the user stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting question as to what that should be, right? Like, because then wouldn't it having the same field have 2 meanings is dangerous to do what I'm saying, you know? Or like the same, like, where like it could be like, I mean, admins can see total, you know what I mean? Like it's well, like maybe the solution is that it's like only those with edit can see totals or something. I don't know. That's so messy though. It's so crazy. Like having multiple APIs that mean the same thing, that mean different things depending on who calls it, is problematic, right? But like, so if what I'm saying is adding this, what is the security check here, right? Is it just the same, right? Just get workspace kind?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we're not exposing, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this line of investigation is wrong, but we're not, the aggregate, we're not exposing any details about these workspaces other than how many there are, which I'd say is not, in this context for this thing, is not sensitive. Knowing that there's 0 or 14 doesn't belie anything about anything that might be sensitive there.
Then the question becomes though, like, what about in what about like, what is this being used for in the workspace kind list page? It's being used for showing the list. Like the first list is just literally, I need the names and the logos and probably this total count, right?
And the root, yes, the root level count, yes.
That's very valuable. But then when it's like, oh no, I don't like the rest of these information is actually excessive potentially. But aside that, then it's like, oh, I click on a specific workspace kind. I'm like, yep, I'm looking at that one right now. I then go into it. I see a metrics overview page. Now, at that point, would I need
So this is the PR that Guillermo's been working on, right? We have that drawer that opens up that lists for each option how many workspaces are using it on the list page. So you
that's
can
the
go
overview
and
table, right? Sure, but then like the
Yes.
next board cards view, I don't even know, but like then once you're looking at a specific workspace kind is like what I'm saying. Like you're on the workspace kind details page, because I think it needs to be a page, not a list,
right.
So, like, because there's going to be crazy amounts of elements on it. So like it's
Yes.
at that point, wouldn't it make more sense to have like a
So we've built that page, and you click on that you click on the details of that thing, and then that has a kind of like a detail view with a image config, pod config, and namespace tab, and then that renders a table that is just then ID value, number of workspaces, ID value, number of workspaces. Like that's how that's being rendered today.
Sure, but then it's like, okay, then I'd want to probably click on that and see which of the workspaces that are using it, right? And then so like,
right.
But so then to calculate that, it's gonna be like, it's more likely that there would be like a subpath, right, or something under the API, which is like slash options. I don't even know, right? But maybe it's just like that the admin page just gets all of the workspaces and then does something on them. You know what I mean? Like it's like, because like this top one, sure, maybe I'm skeptical, but maybe I'm fine with it. But then this one is like, because the question is not how many are using it, it's like how many are using it and are not paused. How many are using it and, you know what I mean? Like this, I don't know if this is not the most useful knowledge for the admin, right? It's kind of like, sure, we got 20 of them using the really expensive GPUs, but it's like all of them are paused, right? So none of them are actually costing us anything. Well,
I mean, this was, and again, if we have more specific criteria, we'll change it, right? But I mean, we had previously discussed this, and part of the value was, is this being used or not, and at what level? So yes, there are different other dimensions, paused or not. I totally appreciate that, but that could be the server side. Like that's why we're using the UI transition to a different view to understand that. So for me, just to like bring this down, can we merge this PR or should we close this PR? And I'm not getting like a clear sense here of like what this is, so we can kind of move on. Yes, there are a million other things we could do, but today, what do we want to do with this?
So what we want to do is enable the minimum viable workspace kind page, right? That's what we're trying to do. Like that's the goal, right? It's that the backend needs to enable that. Does this enable that? I don't know, right? Again, it enables it from an option redirect perspective. But it like, because that's what I care about. I care about how many are using an option when I'm redirecting.
So can I share really quick? Just
Sure,
share. Oh, you have to allow me.
That's fine.
And then it ironically tells me that multiple people can share. All right, so let's do this. This is a recording, but I'm not going to play the recording, right? So like, here is the workspace kinds list right now, right? And so now we have, this number 2 in this case comes from that root level element that we showed, right? Here's your separate page that we had discussed, right? And then in that separate page, what these cards are will evolve over time, right? This is just kind of like what's there right now. To kind of like show how the layout would work. And then we have this table down below. So as you click on the table down below, so I clicked on, one of these and it opens up, or sorry, there's a more details. I apologize. More details menu item here to the right. And so if you click on that more details, it opens up this view, right? Overview, images, pod configs, namespaces. Ignoring overview, the images, pod configs, namespaces then looks like this. Like this is the experience. So then that's where these counts are actually getting used.
Sure. I'm not sure that that's the most useful thing for an admin, but it's better than 0, I guess. But it's like, what would I be? I mean, because it's like realistically, it would make so much more sense to be like paused versus not paused, and then utilize like like it's more like a table there. It's like, and also, what about when there's 10,000 options? Not in that one, but like in the other ones where it's like, I would care about like average utilization, it's like, then okay, then which workspaces are using it? Is the average utilization cut by work? It's like a dimensional slice, you know, like that's kind of what it's more like, you know, table, like a OLAP cube, kind of like, you know, I'm like, you know, dragging around on my Tableau dashboard is kind of what I would expect most admins to want, right? Yeah, I don't know.
I hear you, Matthew, but like you know, we're doing a lot of projecting, and I really want to try to keep this to today. We like it or don't like it. Those opinions are very fair and very valid, but it's like, I'm worried, like we're talking about all the use cases we might want to do in the future that's paralyzing us from doing anything.
So to be clear,
right
so to do it really quickly, the controller can very easily count paused versus unpaused. That's trivial, right? Like that's trivial. Like that probably could be in the controller status, you know, the workspace kind status. That's fine. So like getting that efficiently is very easy, you know, like I feel like that's minimum usefulness, you know, but then, so even if we did that and did this exact same thing, so then what happens when you click on one of those workspaces?
So right now, when you click on this like hyperlink here, this would direct you to workspaces view that, I think I actually have it up there. You know, right now in this demo that I recorded, where did I do that? Sorry. The table looks exactly like what you get from the workspaces view, but it's meant to be different.
Is it filtered?
It's filtered, yes, but then the column, like right now, like the columns are the same between the admin and the, you know, Joel and Bella, but that would like diverge over time. But yes, it would like then like refilter based on that.
So like it's like this page, but with
there'd be like, you know, another filter here. That then you could always add more filters to give you that, like those other additional slices, right?
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. I'm just thinking like, so the options aren't really used in that overview page, right? They're not really used in that first page. Well, they're in the detail page, I guess. But
sorry, I just switched. My headphones died, so I missed the last 10 seconds.
No, that's fine. It's fine. I'm just thinking like, so like, is this really putting us down the path to like make all those other features? You know what I mean? Like, is this like, is just adding that metric, even if that's metrics there, it's fine. It's just like when we have that next thing, which is, I guess it's fine when you click into it, like you get everything about the workspaces that were in there. I mean, I don't know quite how that's working from a filter perspective. I guess, is it just getting all workspaces across the whole cluster and filtering them?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it like does an initial query of workspaces like in like React state, and then it's just kind of like reslicing like the everything that is there that it got.
Because yeah, right now there is an API which is list workspace for the whole cluster, which is obviously only available if you have cluster list workspace. Like I think it's only available if you have super admin kind of binding, like workspace, not kinds, but workspaces. Like I think there's a get workspaces, right?
Right.
And then if you, ooh, maybe there isn't.
Yeah, there should. It's like yeah, because you can get it across all namespaces, or then
get workspace,
a specific namespace.
That's getting a specific one. Get workspace by namespace. There isn't really a global one.
There is in the Swagger UI. Where's
maybe it's just that get workspace is when you don't specify a namespace. Namespace is optional if not provided all ones.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so yes.
Yeah, yeah, it says here, and then yeah, if you specify an empty namespace in this, I believe it checks whether you just can list overall the whole cluster. So yeah, it's.
Oh yeah, okay. And then if you look down on line 153, sorry, yeah, that's where then that optionality of which one
Sorry,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's the
But the
repo
auth
call.
is handling this as well. I'm pretty sure. We should probably validate that it is, but I'm pretty sure it is. Where it's like if you just pass an empty namespace, it assumes that you
Yeah, I think we did a deep dive on this code a couple weeks ago where you kind of like validated that does get handled as we would expect. Like
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's we can pretty easily just this is an authorization, and it's just like if namespace. We just go check if namespace. If namespace C, yeah.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the empty works.
Empty
there.
means nothing. Empty means everything. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it is whether you can run the list verb on workspace. So that's fine. But and so if you're already doing that, that's across every. That's not even filtered by names by kind. You know what I mean? Like that could be really slow. But I guess that's fine because that's kind of what. Probably we should provide a way to filter based off kind, maybe. But like it's because that page is going to be slicing and dicing, right? Where effectively that's kind of what I'm saying. Like to get to the page where you can slice and dice, like sure you can click to pre-filtered pages, right? That what you're saying makes sense. Where you get to that table view, and that's just a pre-filtered view of it. But then it's all front end, unless you click refresh current cluster state. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
Where it's like, oh, I'm adding a filter, removing a filter, grouping by metrics, utilization, because like when you actually get the workspace, in the future you'll be getting metrics about the workspace.
Right. Yep. So. Exactly. And yes, and that does not make sense to do round trips to the back end to do all of that. Like that's insane, right?
Because,
yeah,
it'd be way too big, especially because it'll be like let's say 10 megabytes of data potentially, right? You know.
Yes.
And maybe there'd be watches or something once we have real-time metrics or something, but then that's crazy, right? That's not necessary. So the question still comes back to, okay, so most of the information in that page is going to be in this list, right? You know what I mean? Like most of the like metrics that the admin actually cares about is on this get all in the cluster, which again, maybe we need to think of a way to filter this by like, maybe it's not under here anymore. Maybe it's workspace kind has a get workspace, like a slash. You know what I mean? A works.
Yeah, I have on my whiteboard. Yes, these like subpaths were like admin specific. I haven't brought that up on the call yet, but yes, so that's kind of where my head was at too. Where you could give the workspaces experience for admins work differently than just your root level workspaces API suite.
Yeah, it's problematic from an auth perspective, but yeah, like it's it's more like, then how are we going to filter it? Like, clearly we do need the ability, like at very minimum, trivially, because it's like not difficult for the cluster to do it, the backend to do it. It's like, how do we communicate that we actually want workspaces from a specific kind? You know what I mean? Like that's, or if we just get all of them in the whole cluster no matter what, and then your table view actually, oh, that's messy. That's really messy because like the IDs won't align.
Yeah, that gets it. So yeah, because I was thinking like, oh, we just throw a query parameter up there, but that gets us right back to the state of then all the workspace counts are hosed because you wouldn't really expect at that point. Oh no, but the counts are always within the scope of a particular kind. So I think like we could you just query parameter, right? And like filter, we could even just have the back end slice that list, right?
That's not difficult. The other thing is that actually the workspaces send a lot of the information multiple times. That's fine. But like each workspace object, I think, unpacks the option information for it, right? It has to, yeah. Like it does the join, the join between workspace kind ID, pod config ID and image config ID. So like I think because when we get down to image config, current and option ID to item. Yeah, there we go. So like it's so that's fine. Those are getting sent many times, but that's fine. Networking is cheap. So all I'm saying is like, how do we communicate some kind of filter on this, right? And this is fine because it can still require you to have admin level access. You know what I mean? There's no, because it's not a, because like, it's like you need to at least have the ability to list all workspaces. And then it's like, you can say, just don't send me anything else. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like filter. Adding a filter here probably does make sense from a UI perspective, but we haven't really thought about how filters are handled yet. You know, if there's ever a case where we apply a filter.
Yeah, I mean, for you to blow up, right? My straw man would just be a workspace kind, like literally the query parameter is called workspace kind equals
or filter equals, and then some series of.
Yeah, if we want to like just I avoided that, like because we had said, previously, well, we're not really going to go the route of filtering. So like a filter equals implies this more expressive filtering syntax that, in this case, it just feels like give me everything for this one workspace kind is probably a good start for what we would want. So it'd just be its own query parameter. I totally hear you on filter equals makes a lot more sense if we want a more expressive syntax. I just don't know right now if.
Well, actually, it's completely fine to. It's a bit weird from like a path perspective, but if we really want to force it, we could literally just put it as workspace kind / name /
Oh yeah, so that
like there's no reason why the object type can't be the same. You know what I mean? It's just like workspace kind / name /
workspaces.
Yeah, / workspaces, right? And then like
that's a good, because we had talked about wanting to like we're still going to run into these same like future issues on like admin versus not if it hangs off of workspace kind, but that problem already exists. Like this doesn't make that problem worse.
Well, then like the auth check for that is just like get workspace kind workspaces would be like the thing here, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like so effectively you had another / workspaces and then you could get a specific one, I guess, but then we don't have that option. Like, and then we could have workspaces, and then it's like the check would be, can you get the workspace kind, which you should be able to, and then be strange otherwise. And then can you
list workspaces?
Or
right?
You still need to be able to list at the cluster level, though. You know what I mean? There's no concept of like it comes back to like this, like filtering like this is really just a helper for the front end. You know what I mean? To stop it getting DDoSed, which means that it really doesn't matter, right? That's like it's like there's no strict requirement to have that. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
It does mean the front end has to do some filtering, and it clearly does not scale. Like that obviously doesn't scale, but like it's like when you have you know what I mean? Like when you have tens of thousands of these, it could be a problem. But they not really actually. Oh, just the fact that each one is quite big is part of the problem. But okay, that's fine. So yeah, that's fine. So then this comes back to our question though, which is, okay, if we put this in here, like I'm not against this. Part of me thinks that the check we should be doing for get workspace kinds is actually per profile, like the auth check. It's like, could you create what's like the get workspace kinds maybe should say, maybe there should be a namespace parameter here, and then it's like an admin level concept again to be able to get them at the cluster level. You know, like that it's like, oh wait, that's not how that works. It is
no, because there is no, like, I mean, it's in the design doc as future, namespace scope, but there is only cluster scoped.
Well, namespace scoping is just adding filters. But what I'm saying is we could still say though that this would apply the filters, right? Where it's like, I am currently trying to get workspace kinds for this namespace. What ones would be allowed? You know what I mean? Like,
oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
on the create,
I see.
Right?
I
where
see
it's like,
how, yeah.
Where like it's not enforced from a like. It will be enforced from a backend perspective on the create. If you tried to create, like if you sent the API request manually to create a workspace for a namespace that's not allowed to use that kind, of course, right? Or option, like that will be a thing in the future. But because that's obviously going to be the first request people have. Like, oh, I want to restrict team 1 from using expensive GPUs. You know what I mean? Like, please.
So wait, I'm sorry, just to take us, I got lost here on what problem we were trying to solve. We were saying, tell me which workspace kinds I can create in this namespace. How does that?
What I'm saying is, no, because we can solve it both ways, right? What I'm saying is the issue here is around what API is being used for the workspace kind list page versus what is being used for the workspace kind create page, workspace create page. So if we make the create one always specify a namespace, then it's now a different API. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's
but I thought we were talking about listing which we wanted to list workspaces, but only list the workspaces for a particular workspace kind is how we got.
No, that's
onto
fine. We can
the
just that we don't. I
conversation.
think we all agreed that that's fine. Like once you're at that level of the workspace kind admin page, you're just listing the whole clusters ones.
Okay.
Right. But then the question now is, we could additionally, if we want to, let's say, not include the counts on the create one, you know what I mean? What we could instead do is have the front end request, and then the permission is not even based off like that. We don't give workspace kind create, edit, or list, get or list to normal users. We just don't give it to them. And instead, which actually this is much more scalable. We should definitely do this. Like, which is because it also applies to what options are returned, right? It's going to be secretively hiding options in the API return. You know what I mean? Where it's like the user probably shouldn't even know that there's an option if they were in another namespace that they could have unless they also have that namespace. You know, like maybe it's a, you know, like you could imagine many political situations in companies where you want to do that, right? So like what that means is I think that's the solution, is actually to leave workspace kinds as an admin API, right? And then have workspace kinds slash
namespace.
Or yeah, we could even do it under the workspace one, but because the workspace, it's, I guess, you know what I mean? I guess it's a question as to, it probably shouldn't be under work. Yeah. Because like and again, the permission to do that is, could you create a workspace in this namespace? Like that's the permission check that we're running. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, give me all the workspace kinds that are available, and then filtered by the options inside of them that would have been allowed in the future. That's not a thing right now, but you know, when it is, right? Because again, the auth thing is like the filtering options by namespace is going to be enforced at the backend level, not at the Kubernetes level. You know?
Gotcha.
Well, we haven't decided on that, but probably. Because otherwise, when you change them, then the controller could be in a state where it's like, I'm in a state where this state would not have been allowed. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise we have to do these real complicated, like the reason why the controller can't be enforcing it is because it's like, you could change the rules. You could be like, this option is now available or not available in this namespace. And then it's like, but there's already a workspace with that name, with that option. What do I do with it? You know what I mean? Like, am I just like failing this workspace? Like, that doesn't seem like a good idea. So the backend was going to be the place enforcing those rules, right?
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. So the endpoint though, right? Because in the other API, how we handle this, you know, workspaces slash namespace, like you have this, like you can list all workspaces everywhere, or you do workspaces, namespace, then the name of the workspace, right? But here, we can't just create a new endpoint that's slash workspace kind slash namespace, because that conflicts with this one.
I think it would be a slash, like,
but here I thought, like, if we do a slash after name, I thought this was give me all the workspace kinds valid for this namespace. So it's
that's
like
what I'm saying. Yes, but like
we wouldn't have the name.
And it's not actually. I think it's not. So the question is, do we have the word namespace before the namespace, or do we just assume that it's workspace kind slash name? Because we're limiting ourselves if we don't have the word name, like the hard coded word namespace after this. You know what I mean? Like that's
right. Which is. That's how it is
maybe
in the Workspaces API right now. But yeah, here maybe it's well,
no, for Workspaces it makes total sense because
because it's a different scope. So yeah, so then here probably it is workspace.
But is it just slash namespace? Because I'm not even against it for get just being slash namespace. You know what I mean? But it's like the name of the namespace. You know what I mean? Like,
well, we have a slash namespaces API right now.
That's the other way around, though. That's getting namespace. I think the one thing we should agree, though, is that the first element is the kind of thing that's returned.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if it's a secretively filtered version of that thing, you know, where you have less information than you think you do.
So I guess I don't understand where slash namespace goes here, because it's gonna conflict with this router as defined right now. Are we saying we would actually change this existing path too?
No. What do you mean?
If I do slash workspace kind slash namespace.
No. Slash namespace.
But
I
I thought
agree
we
that
wanted to list all of the valid workspace kinds.
Well, technically speaking, the first one is actually not got a name, right? The first one is like, I was just highlighting the wrong thing. Like, the first one is this one, right? Like,
right.
So,
and so if we do slash namespace here,
I agree. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah. I get what you're saying. So like, maybe this does need to be a query parameter then, but like, this probably is the one case where it actually does need to be a query parameter, because like, we're in an impossible situation otherwise. You know,
right.
like
yes, yeah, okay. So
like,
yes, I think like I don't like the query parameter thing normally, but I think in this specific situation,
and then it can also you can imagine other situations. Like you can imagine there will be, because effectively what I'm trying to do is on the workspace create page, it's like you can imagine other situations, right, where maybe there's other parameters as well, where I'm like, maybe even specific users aren't allowed. Well, that's already a thing, right? Like the backend could already do that. Like it already knows who's talking to it. So like so if the Kubernetes API could agree on who was allowed to do what, then which probably it can't, but you know, so like the thing, is there any other way we could do this? Well, I guess, because again, the idea here is, and so the idea here is that because again, what you return in this object is, and it also, now the only thing that becomes complicated is that it makes your metrics one, you know, how the thing that we're actually debating, what does it return here then, you know, under this circumstance, you know?
Yes, and I feel like it, I don't like the answer, but I feel like personally it has to, the counts have to align to
the namespace.
The filtered reality, right? You can't say, give me everything. Like if you only have 2 in that namespace, you should not have a count that says 6. That's like nonsensical.
Yes. And it's trivial, like to be clear, as I said, the backend literally, well, this is actually coming back to what I was saying about like storing information in a metric sense. Like, so we could discalculate it every time, and maybe that's what we should do at the beginning until it becomes a problem, right? You know, you should usually optimize last, you know? But,
right.
But like, it wouldn't be that hard, because don't forget we're on controller runtime, that you could have a, I think it would be under server in this case, where, oh no, that's the wrapper. It's under, let me just confirm I'm not missing any meetings. I mean, I am, but it's not relevant. It's not a problem. Okay. Everyone is still free to watch this, by the way. This has got a really long video, but I guess it's useful for people who just want to learn about random shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this would be under, no, it wouldn't be under repositories. Where is this under? It's the piece which actually does the controller runtime under app. I see it. Okay, so the, oh no, it's not app.
Is it under the the specific repositories, not that level 1, but
that is the, well, that's probably where we should put it. You're probably right. That it should be under the workspace repository, and the repository should be storing information. Because like when we, yeah, and then where do we use this? We use this in, oh god, we're not in the main branch. We use this in,
I think it's in the model.
It'll be under here. No, we call it, it's under here where we, you know.
Sorry, yes.
And then a new repositories would be, is probably under server, is kind of what I was saying.
New, yeah.
New set up with manager. No, it's not. It's somewhere. This is the thing that gets wrapped, right? Maybe it's under app. Maybe it is actually under app in this case.
This one, yeah.
It's just because they're repositories. Yeah, this is the abstract, and then under new app, new repositories. See,
new repositories.
So then what would have to happen though is that this is fine, like, but the issue is we would have to, like, we don't have the ability to, because we're not using a reconciler, we would have to start a reconciler whose job it is to keep this in sync, which would be in a separate thread though, so that would cause thread race conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, like I was thinking, how would we optimize this, right? Like, because the goal would be that the metrics don't, well, no, but they're sliced. They do change. It's like a query, right? It is actually a, so we just need to store a database, and that's literally what we're doing by holding them all in memory anyway. Like, it's just just an object store, but in memory. Like, I think it's fine. Again, I don't think there's ever going to be millions of millions of workspaces, and while it is a little bit inefficient, at very least we can just add caching, right? Like, that's the, like, if someone spam refreshes this, that's actually the only thing. Yeah, anytime when you have a load put on the backend from a particular query, it introduces a DDoS possibility. You know what I mean? Intentional or otherwise. Like, so, because like all we would do is change, because then we would have to change your, well, this one is fine. Like, this is actually, this PR could be merged in its current state because it's still valid. You know what I mean? Like, this is,
right, now we're talking about, now we're going to change
this is the API
state.
for the workspace kind page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is no longer the API for the workspace page.
Yes.
That's fine. It's mergeable in that state. Probably we should add a note to say, let's add in the controller. I didn't thought about it, but we should probably just catalog pause versus unpaused. Do you know what I mean? Or by state, maybe like ones that are in, you know what I mean? Because like if it's paused, it doesn't necessarily mean it's running. It's like, is it using resources is the more important question for admins, right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because like using is not that valuable. It's like, well, it's not costing me, well, it could be costing you money, but not directly. It's not using resources. Anyway, so coming back to that then. So then all we would be doing then is adding a, under workspace kinds, actually, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. But yeah, but then, because while it's not obvious what's happening here, it's not actually a repository in the traditional sense. What it's happening here is it's just accessing the cached client list, which is list watching from the cluster, right? So it's which actually, to be clear, if we can make this really efficient, we can index. We already are. Because all that, yeah, it's actually really simple. Effectively, because again, what we're making it, yeah, because like because effectively you're like, I'm clicking on create workspace, I do a list workspace kinds, which is never done again. Like I never do a get after that. Like on the create, I click create workspace. My first API call is list workspaces for this namespace, workspace kinds for this namespace, which then has returned the full objects that I would be allowed to use in this one, including all their options, which, sure, whatever. And maybe it also includes some metrics about, so that's the thing we're saying, right? Like, are we, is the object type the same or is it a different object type? Because the way we calculate this would be different for that one, right? It would have to be.
Right. If you pass the namespace filter, you can't use the counts from the status object. You really need to look at like all of the workspaces. Like you basically have to iterate over that workspaces.
We probably need another object kind called like workspace kind namespaced, or like workspace kind create. You know what I mean, or something like, you know, like it's a new object. It's a new model, right? It's like just so that we don't have to solve that other problem, right? Like, otherwise we're going to have to populate that with 0 in the case. Maybe we could also just have the rule be 0, you know what I mean? Like, that it always returns, like, that's, in the short term, that might be the simplest way to do it. Where, like, this field is nullable, maybe? I don't know, maybe just not... Is it better to just not include it, or is it better to just have it be an invalid value, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of... like -1, like, you know, maybe it's -1 whenever you, just so that it doesn't make any sense when you in the JSON return, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where it's like whenever you do a filtered one, anything which is not valid is just because all we would need to do is because
Oh, wait, sorry, if we're doing it, sorry, can you speak to what do you mean when you say invalid on a filtered? If it's invalid,
what I'm saying is like, so
see it in the list, right?
Because what would happen is right now there would be a new function under this workspace kind repository, right? Which is workspace kinds for namespace. And then there would be comma namespace here. You know what I mean? And then we could just return a new model type. We could do workspace kind for namespace. That's pretty simple. It causes a little bit of duplication in the models, right? Under here.
Right.
Workspace kind for namespace or something, you know? Like, or we already have workspace kind, like we already have a precedent for this under the create, obviously, right? Which we'll have for all the rest too, which is different model type for different, well, maybe not create for workspace kind because it might be YAML, but for like what's the name of this object? It's workspace create. Yeah, so like because it's like,
so, but I guess, sorry, for where, I guess what I'm missing is why it needs to be a different struct. What are we thinking?
Well, because otherwise, what are we putting in the field that you're just about to add? If we merge this, we've now got a field that we don't know how to populate for that. Like what we haven't, this element now, workspace count, is undefined for that filter. What does it mean? Well, I mean, strictly, this is still defined in the sense that it will come from the controller, right? Because the workspace itself does have that information, but the user doesn't have the ability to get the workspace. So they
so I guess I'm sorry. So you're saying here, there's two different ways we could do this. You could pass the namespace query parameter, and then we have to write more code to make that backend API show the right counts. Or we could just define a new struct where it says, in this case, we're just not even going to give you the counts if you're filtering by namespace.
To be clear, in this case, it's more of a security concern than anything else, because it's not like it's more like the user is not able to. We can just add it to do, honestly, I think, in this case, because like the wherever it is, like the workspace kinds, right? Like this with your update here would correctly return the kinds because they are actually in the status, right? You know, those actually would be returned. But we're already actually thinking about it going to be very quickly unpacking the options anyway, because we're going to be saying don't show the options that are not allowed in this, or even just don't show the hidden options because they're hidden, right? You know what I mean? Literally, don't show the hidden options, right? So, so it's I don't think it's that big of a security risk personally, but it's because it's just otherwise. But what I'm saying is, if we're going to be looping through the options anyway, maybe we should just set it to -1. You know what I mean? Like just like that's kind of what I'm. That's you know that's what I'm saying, right? Like rather like although you've got this map here though. Oh, I see. Interesting.
Because this information comes from two separate arrays, right?
Yeah, it would be. I mean, we could obviously just add a value here which says we'll just make this nullable or whatever, right? You know, like make it so that if this is empty, this becomes -1, right? But where's the build options value? Where's this called? Build metrics.
It's called at the beginning of the function.
Oh, very at the top, yeah. Map, oh, yeah, because this can this not fail? I guess it can't. Do we? Yeah, I guess we do know enough at this point to know that we should do it. Because we probably should push to this thing a namespace parameter here. You know what I mean? Like that's probably there should be an optional namespace parameter here.
Okay.
And that should indicate a couple of things internally, right? That is, but the only reason, yeah. So,
okay, so I'm sorry. So what you're saying is, so that -1 value or whatever means that.
Well, it can be just null. It can honestly just be null because the way that a struct works is that, well, the default value of an empty int, which I presume this is what you are returning it as. What did you add to the model?
Yes,
An int 32. Yeah, okay, that's probably enough. Like, is that actually what it, by the way, what is the type in the, well, it's 64 because it has to be, right? That's, I just realized, yeah, that's, although Jason doesn't have the concept of int 32 versus int 64, so what's even the difference here? Okay, but, is that even, yeah, whatever. Okay. So, yeah, so my thought process here would be, yeah, that you would, in the same way that you have, yeah, this is actually another interesting factor as well, right? Which is like, this build, it's not really relevant because they're not big objects, but the, this will copy every metric as a new.
Yeah, I struggled on that. It's like
it's
really
fine. The reason I do it here though is actually very explicitly copying. The reason for that is because maps are always pointers. Right, so it's kind of like this. There's no way to make a non-pointer map. So like this, it's more like you could accidentally mutate the whatever. Like I don't know who's calling me and why they're calling me. Like I'm saving them from themselves, doing something unexpected, like mutating the internal cache, which actually isn't possible because the internal cache makes a copy as well. But it's more like if you want to work on this object again, I don't want to accidentally. Like this is like just protecting people from themselves later in the callers, right? For very cheap. cheap saves. Okay, so the question then is, do we just merge this in its current state? The front end doesn't even talk to the back end right now, so sure, I guess.
I mean, it does. Like we've been running demos, but I mean, yeah, not in Cube right now.
Oh, okay, that's like, so it actually does then? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question then is there ever a case you would create a workspace where you don't know the namespace you're going to be using? No, not really. So
correct.
And it's more like, yeah, this is more like preparing for the future, which I think is obvious. Like the most requested feature, if we don't have it on the day one, is going to be, I want to restrict who can use what, right? This is obvious, right? You know, so, and then doing this does let us, it does cause some madness, right? That we're gonna, if we have a namespace in here, because it's like, what the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's quite confusing from a Kubernetes mapping perspective. But it's like, maybe it should be called filter namespace or something, you know, like it's, rather than the word namespace, because it's like, no, it's not the namespace of the kind.
So
it's
overloaded, yes.
It's like, because not the namespace of the kind, it's a filter of, you know,
filter,
like that.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then if it's empty, then it's everything. But
yes.
And then I think we would just be saying, yeah, build options map is, you know, is it, I guess it just the question, that's the answer. This like right now we've got the answer. Do we want to return -1 there, or do we just want to still return it as if the information is it should be accessible to the front end? Because we're already going to be processing these ones, right? So I think we should have this concept so that it demonstrates what it will look like, and then have a to-do in here that says filter these options if namespace filter is true by the ones that the namespace is allowed to use. You know, like that should just be there. Like we can have a to-do just so that it highlights that it should be there.
Right. Yeah. So because so we wouldn't.
So effectively just make this.
There would not be there wouldn't be nils anywhere right now. The nils come out once we actually start restricting who can.
No, there's no nils. The option, it's an array. The array just would not include the options that are invalid.
Okay.
See what I mean? Like it's
yes.
because we're on the assumption here is that the user might know about an option that is no longer allowed, but it's and the create would then need to be also responsible for enforcing it if we wanted to enforce it at that level. You know what I mean? But
and so then, and if you pass in the namespace, what are we doing like with like the workspace? Like the workspace level count should reflect only the workspaces in that namespace?
No, I think that's well.
So that like line 65 there, right? It's
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's that much risk to having this number be the actual number. Like
the
this
actual number.
Yeah, like I think this one's fine. Like this is actually quite useful. I think there's not really any security situation which is reasonable where this is not a valid thing to do. The options ones, I think, could get a little bit more, especially because in the future this is metrics map, right? You see what I mean? Like this is the only thing I have a little bit concerned about is maybe there should be a metric subfield here, you know what I mean? Like
so the way, yeah, so I mean that was going to be a future. I wanted to write up, like I wrote a really dirty POC right now that just uses like a kind cluster with a metrics API that exposes some metrics, and I was keeping that in a separate object in the payload. There's like a metrics object.
It's like I think probably we would have two options here. We would have two fields, one which is nil when you're not, one which is like namespace metrics, and one which is cluster metrics. You know what I mean? Like, in fact, you know, and maybe that's actually we should just call this like under here namespace, sorry, cluster metrics. You know what I mean?
So, but I guess I'm worried there because this is under a specific option.
Yeah, exactly. So like what I'm saying, so you never see cluster metrics when you're doing create because that doesn't even make sense, right? We just don't need to send that to you. But you might want to see namespace ones. Like filter by the ones that you're already using, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like sort by, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, you can imagine, because don't forget this is on the options selector, so you got the sidebar. Another filter parameter could be ones that are not in use or are in use by one or more, right? But then what I'm saying is I think it's better for the field to be, I'm always pragmatic about like the same field should always mean the same thing. Even if you like, you should never magic is bad. That's kind of what I'm saying, right? Like this, it feels like magic. So like, and so then this raises the question of, since we now have two numbers that are kind of the same thing, they need to be in a separate sub object, right? And then what's great about this is actually we can, instead of, we would effectively build a mapping, which is actually what why is this not doing it? Why are we building it here? Oh, I see, because you can't index by that. That's fine.
Yeah, because we can just get a list of everything in the status object and then a list of other stuff, and we need to, you know what I mean? So instead
and in
of
the future, this will have metrics.
Iterating.
And so like, yeah, so this is fine. But then the return should probably be, the object type here should probably, the return type should probably not be this to this. It should probably be, sure, integer option ID. Oh, sorry, string option ID to cluster metric and namespace metric. You know what I mean? Like there should be two functions, right?
So and I'm sorry, when you cluster metric and namespace,
there'll be a new object model. That's kind of
struct. Count. So cluster metric is count of total in the cluster. Namespace metric is count of total.
No, it's not count. It's just it's a new struct. So like what I'm saying is,
but like, won't these quote unquote metrics always be just counts?
You could imagine, well, first off, think about it as like you would at least have paused, unpaused, or other things maybe in there too, you know, like.
But I mean, that's always going to be the count of pause for the things using that option, right?
Yeah, but that's fine.
I'm just like, my point here is like metric is a very abstract term. I feel
you
like
already use the term internally, right? Like
internally, yes. I'm sorry, I'm talking about like the JSON map. How do we map this? Like, should it be called like, I feel like the JSON representation should be count. Like if you look at this,
This is another map. What
workspace
I'm saying is
maps to.
what I'm
If
saying
you
is we
look
have a
down
map
to
here.
28, it maps to the attribute name workspaces count.
Where?
There, yeah.
Okay, but what I'm saying is we have a new map. We have a new, like, in the same way that we have option label, we have option metric. Like option cluster metric and option namespace metric. It's metrics probably for the nest. So like, and then workspace is just the only element. The workspace, I think total workspaces might be better, or workspace count's fine. It's fine, whatever. You know what I mean? And then like that's pretty trivial to add, is all I'm saying. And then the reason for that is just then we make it a map that is an empty object, or the key just isn't there. Like we do an emit empty, you know what I mean? We do an emit empty on it, and then just don't set it when namespace isn't like. And right now, then there's nothing is returned on the front end, other than we could also do workspace kind. I'm not against this one just having the number, you know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm saying, but like it's. Maybe some admins wouldn't like it, but
So like if you go back to the comments on this, so not looking at code, but like go back to the main overall, I just want to make sure, like I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure still of the JSON response we're talking about.
It's pretty straightforward, I think. Where is your PR? It's on this one. But I think we have solved a problem here that we would have run into later anyway, right? Which is what I like. This is what I like when we do that.
So yeah, I guess here. So is this a new object?
I think there probably should be a metrics up here too. Cluster
well,
metrics.
so metrics I was taking like the utilization and stuff. That's where naming starts to get confusing. I was trying like I wanted to introduce a metrics object that is like CPU utilization, memory utilization.
Not in the workspace kind object. That's not necessary. That's in the workspace.
Oh, whoops. I'm sorry. Yes, my bad. Please continue.
Like at the admin level, they should be already in the full workspaces list at that point. You know what I mean? Like that's it's just it's not because at that point we need to be polling it, and you know what I mean. Like it's like it's more of a it could have a graph. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of it could be a dot point of a lot of information. Who knows, right? So all I'm saying is we just add.
Add a parent metrics object with workspaces total and this other one for namespaces if it's provided.
Well, we're saying we could have just the word. I avoid lots of nesting because JSON objects nesting is crazy. This unpacks a lot of it, which is why it's structured like this already. But the question is just this one, right? I think these ones, as I'm saying, are very obvious. It needs to be cluster metrics and namespace metrics, which are nil in the reverse cases, depending on.
And then workspaces count exists inside of that in the relevant place?
Yeah, I'd say so. The question, I guess, is whether do we agree on what the path was going to be for the namespace? Is it going to be slash namespace, or is it going to be? Well, I guess it has.
Well, no, we said it. This is the one. It has to be a query parameter, right? On the overall list without the name attribute.
Yeah, because we also want to be able to not show in the future, not show workspace kinds for some reason to a namespace. Yeah. In the future, we want to be able to do that. Yeah. Right now, that's not a thing, but in the future, we might want to. So right now, they don't even have to. We don't have to build that parameter even, right? I mean, it's not even necessary. Oh wait, no, it is because we're actually filtering the internals as well. It's because right now we don't do a get. We only do one get. You know, I mean, for the list.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And then, well, actually, this one we don't have to do anything with. This one we don't.
This one we do not. The other, yeah, the other.
This one they just won't have permission. Like we'll like we need to. So the to-dos are ensure that the users do not have permission. Normal users should not have get or list permission on workspace kind. Like that's the first thing. So we're ignoring the fact that they would need it normally, right? If we were just directly mapping to Kubernetes.
Right.
And instead, we're saying if you can create a workspace in a namespace, then we will give you information that you would not have through the Kubernetes API. You know, like that's. or from within your, yeah, if you could somehow use the Kubernetes API as your user ID, which you may not be able to. So that's the first thing. The second thing is then adding a query parameter, which is, and then the reason for that is so that the get a specific workspace kind one is not accessible to anyone, to these people. You know what I mean? That, and then we can then put more metrics in here as well, because like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then under here we add a query parameter, which is workspace kinds, and now we have an auth question though, right? Which is like, so obviously effectively the auth, that's why the auth being pluggable like this is so great. Man, this meeting has gone forever. We're just recording it for lots of people. It's gonna be a super long YouTube video. Training the AIs now. So like we have a new so we have a new if statement here, which is, are they allowed to, the auth is now, if namespace is set, then we check, well, actually, now we've got a problem, right? Which is that there's a conditional cascading auth, right? The admin, should they be allowed to filter by namespace? You know what I mean? If they can't create in a workspace.
In the case that an admin is not like a cluster admin?
Well, what I'm saying is the way that we're determining your access to do the filtered one, maybe it does make more sense for it to be under workspaces then.
Yeah, it's just weird though, because it's like we're trying to return the kinds.
Yeah, the first part of it probably should not be related. Like, we should forget that the auth is not related to the path. That's what I'm saying. It's like, that's kind of that the auth has some mapping to the path, but is not related to it. The question then still comes back to, okay, if a user is capable of listing workspace kinds at the cluster level, should they be allowed to also pass the filter? Because we need to check both then.
Right.
Because I think these policies, let me just confirm. Are these an and or? I think they're ands.
And so we would need to issue two different queries, and both of them would have.
No, it's trivial to do. It's just like you need to run both of these. But like, I guess, wait, let's just confirm that auth policies are anded. Let's authorize new resource policy attributes for resource verb, delegating authorizer. Rest config, that's the overall authorizer. And then you have to call it, which is,
yeah, where are we passing in the?
I think that's actually under helpers, which is like wrapping this, which is like, sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so it takes an array of policies and
look at the request. It's getting them, and then for each policy, check if the user authorized to take the request action attributes. Yeah, so if there's a fail early, so yeah, it's and.
So it's an and.
Yeah, I mean maybe there should be a concept of an or, but probably not right now. It's fine.
Yeah.
It just depends on if we want to make sure that code doesn't have you know what I mean? Like, it's more like preventing authors being its centralized tested libraries is useful because it means that people can't screw it up.
Right.
But okay, so in any case, then I guess for now we just assume that it's very weird, but like, say you can only list by namespace if you can create a workspace in that namespace.
Yes.
Because what you're actually asking for is give me the things that would be valid, which is really helpful for the front end, right? You know what I mean? Like that, it stops a lot of processing that would need to happen in the front end once we have really complex it also hides these options from users, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's the second option thing on the list, which is
you would need create workspace
in
scope,
that namespace.
Scope to that namespace.
Which you do just by adding a metadata inside of this.
Right.
And
yeah, so right now this is saying that, you know, maybe in the future this is problematic because maybe you wouldn't want Joel, your cluster admin, to be able to create workspaces in a given.
Well, it's more like maybe they just don't have the ability to do that, and then it's not like it matters because this API should never be called unless you are on the create workspace page, right?
Right.
Like, so it shouldn't. It's only if you're manually calling APIs when you shouldn't be, right? It's
right. Yeah. Which so much less worried about there being an inconsistency.
We could also, again, just have a separate path, right? It's not like we couldn't just have a separate path.
Right. It's just, it's hard to find out what that separate path is. Like you have to like workspace kinds dash something, you know what I mean? Like you can't use a nice clean like / restful.
It just, I worry that we're now just doing these complicated if like conditional structs in the workspace kind model. Actually, I just realized something. We could let users in the create flow see the real metrics if they are actually a cluster admin. You know what I mean? Like it like
right, which is and again, I don't want to project too much into the future, but for use cases where you might not, like, you might be the same person, right? Like maybe you don't have two different people with these two different personas. Optimizing that to like have everything because you're the same person is nice.
But you're doing different things. Like I think the reason you'd want that you do really want the namespace metrics in the future when that's a thing, right? We're not going to give namespace metrics right now, but like in like that could be something you want. We don't know if people want it though, so like it's more like that's why we don't give it right away. But yeah, the question is like, do we just null it out? Also, the problem is this require auth is set up so that it sets the return as well immediately as like invalid. Like that's why this just returns. Because like it's set the response it's going to give to the user already at this point. So what I'm saying is like we can't use require auth. We'd have to have like check auth. You know what I mean? Or something like that. Okay. Which probably could be abstracted anyway. So I think that's fine. So anyway, the answer is still then, okay, I have a query parameter for a namespace. It needs to be validated just like everything else, by the way. So like namespace cannot be an invalid thing. Prevent, you know, overflows and stuff. That's fine. And then get workspace kinds should have a namespace filter parameter is then the next thing. And then, so do you want to do this or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just rewatch this recording and spin this into an actual issue. So yeah.
Yep. And then after that, that's pretty straightforward. And then I think we agreed last part is in here. When you're inside of this, all we do is add a new object called, in the same way that we have a model object thing. Where is it gone? Down here. Called option label. We just have option metric or cluster metric metrics, option cluster metrics. The only one that we have remaining is, do we have the wherever it is at the top? No, it's this workspace is for the overall. Do we have workspace cluster metrics, workspace kind cluster metrics, or just metrics? I guess because I think I dropped the word workspace kind on the prefix if it's. So probably yes, I'd say so. Right, let's just do that so that we'd have that option in the future.
All right, so then cluster metrics and namespace metrics.
Don't add namespace metrics. Just this in the future that might be a thing.
Gotcha. Cluster metrics.
Yeah, it's so like so effectively have option. I guess the question is, do we have option metrics and then just have cluster and namespace? Or, you know, is it like two objects, or is it, you know what I mean? Is it just option metrics? And then under that, there is a field called cluster and a field called nothing else because we don't have anything else right now.
Probably. I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like,
probably
I
the
mean,
cleanest.
it gets more nested, but I feel like it is cleanest as we expect those things to grow.
Nesting is always painful though. Like that's the only. It's more obvious, but they're not options though. That's the only. Um.
Well, I mean, it's scoped to, well, I guess it's scoped to an option value, not really scoped to an option.
I think it makes sense to just have, because then the word metrics can be used under here. Like we just have the word metrics as the unpacked JSON object, and then cluster namespace, and then, well, we don't have namespace, we just cluster, right? I think, and the same thing should actually happen at the root of the JSON payload as well. Like up here, there should be one called metrics.
All right, so it'd be a root metrics object. We would then have a cluster child of that, and then within metrics.cluster, there would be a workspaces count.
Yes, and both of these would be returned even if you get a specific workspace kind as well, but not that anything uses that. But yeah, if you have the ability to do that. But you don't, but namespace is not a valid parameter there, so it'll always be empty. But that's fine.
Yes.
So they'd add the word metrics here and then cluster, and then for now we have workspace. Is it workspace count or workspaces count?
I like when I wrote that up, I said I went with the plural form of it. We could obviously change it, but I was just going on.
Interestingly, the word it just uses workspaces, interestingly, and in the metric from the actual controller, which is interesting.
Yes.
What does it unpack to though? Does it unpack? Do we know? Pretty easy to check. Controller, right? Workspace kinds, status, option metric. It literally just unpacks the workspaces. Yeah, well, I mean, count is probably better. Workspaces count, yeah.
Okay.
Cool. That's fine. It's a bit longer, but whatever. Compression is free. So it does just mean that there's going to be this extra string, but these strings are going to be much bigger, so it's fine. Okay, that sounds good. And then hopefully this will enable the front end to, oh, and the last part is like when we're actually in here, just highlight maybe that this, we'll just make sure that it's clear that this is empty, and then we can add a to-do here or something which says, when providing, filters, remember to filter by namespace. You know what I mean? Like just so that there's a to-do in there so that we don't forget that. When spawner filtering is a thing or something.
Okay, so for the sake of this counts PR, then it is what we talked about. Create this nested structure, add this to-do comment, and then I'm sorry, what did you say about the blank thing?
So nothing. What do you mean?
Okay, so it's just to make
omit
this
empty.
PR...
Well, I'm saying like add omit empty maybe to the under option metric and metrics, you know what I mean? Under option metric and cluster option, whatever it's called. And workspace kind metrics, I guess, or if we remove the prefix workspace metrics, just metrics. Have comma omit empty here, right? Just like redirect doesn't show up when there's no redirect, but under the.
But I guess for this PR though, it will always show up. So I'm trying to figure out like what is to make this.
No. When you
PR
specify a namespace, it won't. That's what I'm saying.
But I guess that's in my mind, that's like a whole, like specifying a namespace filter is a different work item. So we want to like keep, you know what I mean?
Well, but this is what we're doing here, though. This is the PR, right? The PR is adding the ability to, well, no, sorry. It's not doing the namespace filter, but it's, it does need to be done for this, though. We do need to do this in the same PR. But it's just saying, like when you filter by namespace, you shouldn't get the metrics, is what I'm saying. You should never get the metrics. That's kind of the implied. We shouldn't get cluster metrics, but in the future we might have other metrics.
Okay.
This is another reason why maybe it's part of me is like maybe we should be option cluster metrics. You know what I mean? And then rather than doing nested, because what about if we never add another one? I think that's probably what we should do. I think that's actually probably what we should do. We should have cluster metrics. No, I don't know. What do you think? I'll let you decide.
So no, I'm sorry. I'm totally getting lost now. My brain just rebooted. We need to make changes to this PR to account for future namespace filtering capabilities that doesn't exist that we will write up an issue on.
Well, it's more like this PR now needs to change its structure return to be the cluster one, even if that cluster one is always returned right now.
Okay.
And then maybe another PR could do the namespace filtering. Sure. That's fine.
Okay, gotcha. But your point is then just to restructure this, just have omit empty on the metrics thing.
Well, effectively, I think I've kind of changed my mind. Sorry. I think it should be just cluster metrics under here rather than metrics and then cluster. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then omit empty should be on that object.
Okay.
Otherwise, you've got two nested omit empties, which are just very hard to unpack. You know what I mean? It's easy to just check, did metrics come back or not?
Yes.
And that should be the case up in here as well. And
yes,
it will never be empty, but it should be omit empty, you know. That's
got it. Okay.
And then the next PR, of course, is to add the
namespace filter.
Yes. And then that one's slightly more complicated with the auth checks. And then the front end team should use that one exclusively because their front end people won't be allowed to do the other one. So they'll just get auth errors. You know what I mean? Like the back end would be like, this user is not authorized to list workspace kinds.
Yes.
If they try. But they are allowed to get ones for the specific namespace if they.
So I guess, but to list, okay, so now I'm getting confused. To list workspace kinds, if we go back to the auth check on this though.
Yep.
We're saying, oh, I guess it's like, do you need to pass multiple policy objects in there? Like,
no, because that's the point. No, it's like, it's just the auth policies depend on if the query parameter is set or not. If the query parameter is not set, then it's the exact same as what it is right now. The namespace.
If it is set, we're saying you have to be able to
create a workspace in the namespace that you've requested.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I was viewing this as you would not use this existing policy if the namespace policy is set.
Yeah, because the users will not be allowed to do this. Because effectively, we're going to show you the admin page based off your ability to get workspace kinds at the cluster level.
But I guess if you're able to create, so yeah, I guess maybe I just don't understand that auth policy. Like I would think if you're allowed to create a workspace, do you also need to like, I'm trying to figure, are you allowed to create a Jupyter Lab workspace versus like, how does just saying you're allowed to create a workspace?
That's fine. That's, there's no difference from the controller's perspective. That's what I'm saying. Right now, there's no filter. So in the same way that there would be filters based off the options, there'll be filters based off the kind maybe in the real distant future as well. I don't think I'm ever really going to accept that one, but like, maybe I will, I don't know. But like all I'm saying is the other policy is you add resource policy, you add verb create, and then you add workspace, not workspace kind, and then you add the namespace of that workspace, but not its name because you don't know what its name is.
Okay, so okay, that's
and then
fine.
If you're allowed to create a workspace in a namespace, then you're allowed to get the workspace kinds that would be valid for using in that namespace. But you will not have the ability to list all the workspace kinds across the cluster, which that is the parameter that's going to check whether you're allowed to go on the workspace kind admin page. You know what I mean? So like we will show the workspace kind admin page if you are allowed to get workspace kinds.
So I guess, yeah, that's just what I'm missing. You might have just addressed it. If I'm allowed to create a workspace in that namespace,
Yes.
I just get all of the workspace. I'm trying to figure out how we
you get that's what I'm saying. The filtering happens in this get workspace kinds where you add another parameter here
Oh,
called
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That is implicitly already there. We just need to make sure we getting into that logic appropriately for these different use cases. Okay.
Yeah, the most privileged thing is the one without any filter, obviously. But the one, but it's not really a privileged thing. It's actually just a different purpose, right? It's not
right.
It just happens that we're using the same path, which is part of me why I'm like, maybe we should actually do workspace kinds filtered, and then just have another, or.
I mean, we could like call it like, I mean, it's a mouthful. Namespace workspace kinds.
No,
like,
that's going to be something different. Like that it's filter.
Oh no, sorry, because sorry, this really is, yeah.
That probably won't exist but like it's workspace
okay.
kinds.
I mean, for now, like, I mean,
for
the
namespace.
two paths are like mutually exclusive. So we can overload it on this endpoint. If we need to split it out later, we can.
Yeah. And I think having less models, because that would create another model otherwise. Yeah.
Yes.
Because again, the models are completely equivalent. They're just, you'll see less options for a specific namespace.
Okay.
That's,
all right. I think I understand this enough. I'll write up tickets and get people to start to look at that. But most importantly, I'll talk to the dev on that counts PR to get him to change
just
that.
move the metrics, make it cluster metrics on both. And that's trivial, I think, yeah.
Yes.
And then we can all be happy. And then I'm my only debate is like, there is one case where the front end will need to align options, because like one of the main purposes of filtering options is we had two ways filtering. We say just don't show per this unless the namespace has a specific label. But then we also said, don't let you select an AMD image on a CUDA GPU. You know what I mean? Like that would be silly. So like, but that's a front end thing. So that's fine. You know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take this back. Find some people to.
Do we agree though that like this is because it solves 3 or 4 problems at once? It solves the problem of how do we decide whether you have the admin page? It solves the problem by removing the need for normal users to ever have list workspace kind.
Yes.
And it also removes the ability. It makes it much easier for future filtering to take place by options, so that they don't even see them. They don't even have to know that they exist. You know, like that they don't have to know that they could be having better ones. Another team gets more budget than them. You know what I mean, or something like that. Yes. Okay. Anything else we need to discuss? I will.
Nope.
Yes.
Nope. I think we're good. I'll get this stuff written
I'm going to stop
up.
the recording.